Story 1. My ex-wife cheated on me 7 years ago when I discovered her in a 4-month affair with a married man. We share a 16-year-old daughter together and co-parent exclusively through my sisters or email. I found out because his wife sent me all of the pictures and videos that they took cheating on us with on his phone. Some of the deal breakers for me was she did extreme actual things with her AP, but flat out refused to do those acts with me. She claimed that those acts were disgusting against her integrity as a woman. She literally told me her body, her rules, before presenting her with the evidence I had. I'd given her a chance to come clean. However, she gaslighted me, even swore on our daughter's life. I told her if you had any integrity or respect for me at all, you would tell me the truth right now. She held firm that I was crazy and making wild accusations with no facts. So I then presented the facts when confronted with the evidence. She broke down and looked me in my face and said she was a piece of SHT and knew her betrayal was beyond disrespectful and ultimately something I would never forgive. I told her going forward under no circumstances except health, safety, and the life or death of our daughter should she contact me. We divorced soon after. Fast forward 6 years later. Last month, my daughter asked would I attended dinner that she was cooking to prepare for her baking cooking competition. I, of course, agreed. But the kicker was her mother. My ex-wife would be there too. She knows why we divorced and accepts my no contact with her mother. Mind you, I haven't seen or spoken to my ex-wife in close to 6 years. At the dinner, some of my former in-laws and ex-wife were there, as well as my sisters and myself. My daughter's food was delicious and everything went smooth. 1 week after the dinner, I received a phone call from my ex-wife that I obviously answered because I thought something was wrong with our daughter. Nothing was wrong with our daughter, but my ex-wife wanted to sincerely apologize for her actions in the past and the damage she did to break up our family. She said that our daughter almost had a breakdown with the fear of her asking me to be in the same place as her, and that our current dynamic is not healthy. She wanted to know was there any way to healthy coexist for future events with our daughter? I did not interrupt her and let her finish what she had to say. When she finished talking, I responded by saying no and discontinue the call. Here is where I need advice. My sister told me my ex-wife is truly ashamed and sorry for breaking up the family and just wants a healthy environment for our daughter. My sister tells me to move on and to think about our daughter's mental health. I reminded my sister, what value am I to my daughter's life if I am unhappy? My ex-wife does not make me happy, so I need unbiased opinions. Should I forgive my ex-wife and move on to build a better co-parenting relationship with my ex-wife for my daughter's sake? Update number 1. I spoke to my daughter yesterday, and what she had to say was an eye-opener. She told me that she knows that I love her and would do anything for her, so she doesn't want to see my love for her from me by making me do things I normally would not otherwise do. She says her mom is struggling with sadness sometimes and tells her all the time that her father is not ever going to move past hating me, which makes it hard for everyone else to stop judging her for her past as well. Apparently, my ex-wife is venting her grievances with our daughter because she has so few friends for context. Ex-wife lost majority, all of our childhood friends as we all grew up together. None of the husbands want their wives hanging out with her due to the fact she used girls' night as an excuse to be with her. And some of the wives, knowingly and some unknowingly covered for this, caused a lot of drama. It is a common belief that some of the other wives were cheating as well, but no other proof can be found. Since my divorce with the ex, the other wives have essentially removed her from the group to save their marriages. My daughter also explained to me that she missed our family being together if she was being honest, but understands that me and her mother love her. She then asked me about forgiveness, and then about unforgiveness, things people cannot be forgiven for. I told her that it's ultimately a standard you must set for yourself. It comes from the morality and values you have within yourself. I explained that sometimes you can dislike the actions but not dislike the person, and sometimes you cannot and associate the actions from the person. I gave her an example. I said her mother is someone whose actions I cannot associate with her. I said, it doesn't mean she is a bad mom, it just means she is someone who I cannot disassociate with her actions. As a result, me and her relationship can never be the same. I then told her just because someone says sorry, it doesn't mean that everything is okay. Unfortunately, some actions have consequences, and in her mother's case, her actions are a part of who she is as a person. My daughter then asked me if I have ever forgiven someone who has hurt me before, and I said yes. I have forgiven a lot of people. Forgiveness is a very important quality to have as a person. Ultimately, we had a very good conversation last night and said me and her mom will always be there for her when she has big life events. I will be talking to my ex-wife soon about her comments to her daughter. Update number 2. So after my last post, I decided to schedule an appointment with two separate therapists who specialize in marriage and family counseling after divorce. I saw these two therapists over the course of 5 months. I did 5 sessions with each therapist, one woman and one male. In the sessions, I went over all my issues. I dealt with my ex-wife and the current dynamics we have in a place now. I showed both therapists my posts and wanted truly to non-biased opinions from two professionals of the opposite sex. The advice they both gave me provided the contrast I needed to make necessary changes, if any, in my life. The first thing I did was invite my ex-wife to join me in 3 planned therapy consultations, which I would pay for. The goals were simple. First, create an avenue for my ex-wife to start speaking with a professional instead of our daughter about our issues. Second, give her closure, not forgiveness, but an opportunity to give her any answers she may need to recover and be a better mother and person to our shared child. Last, build and commit to a plan that we will follow on how we will deal with parenting our daughter and behave at shared life events. She accepted my offer. First session. The first session was all about sharing our point of view on the current state of our lives and what we both want for our daughter. I shared that I am currently enjoying my life as my professional and personal life are flourishing in the sense that I have achieved balance. Joy and court life goals and accomplishments are being met. For my daughter, I share that my goal is to ensure that she is happy, enjoys her childhood, loved and understands the value of self-respect and commitment to core values. I always share with her that everyone loves to believe that they are exceptions to the rules, but sometimes following the rules is what makes a person exceptional. Having a clear sense of what is right and wrong, and behaving in that fashion, is very important to who you are. I share my biggest regret in life would be if my daughter turned out like how her mother used to be 7 to 8 years ago. It was brutal saying this in the session, but I truly believe in fear. This ex-wife then shares the current state of her life. She is very passionate about her career interior-exterior designer. She quite literally turns houses into homes. She shares that she is currently working on herself because her past few relationships ended poorly because of her baggage from our marriage, and divorce has made her very afraid of commitment. She also wants our daughter to be happy, loved, and a hard worker. She responded to my comment about me being afraid of my daughter turning out like she was 7 years ago. She said her pride was hurt by that comment, but years of therapy helped her realize she must accept that her actions of the past have warranted that kind of comment from me. She said she knows our daughter does not want to be like her because our daughter has asked her many times, besides cheating on dad, what is the real reason why he will never forgive you? She said, people cheat and get divorced all the time, and there are still friends. However, dad truly thinks you are a bad person, but a good mom. For years, she thought I was poisoning our daughter against her, but quickly realized that was just her own guilt eating away at her. The session ended quickly after that second session. This session, my ex-wife asked a lot of questions. I mean a lot. Nevertheless, I answered all of them, honestly and bluntly. The 3 main questions she asked were the following one. How did I heal from the wounds that she caused? And what advice could I give her as she is still trying to heal from the wounds she caused herself? I explained that the damage she caused wasn't like a stab or cut wound that you could stitch back together. I said her damage was more like she amputated a limb from my body. My recovery wasn't focused on healing, but rather on how to walk, lift, or learn how to eat with my feet because I no longer had hands. I recovered from what she did by reteaching myself how to not be defined by my disability, become a victim, but more importantly, gaining strength from it. I ended by saying I am still recovering. There is no healing this wound. The leg is gone. I said my advice to her would be, do not amputate your next partner. Stop focusing on healing and start prioritizing, recovering from the damage you caused. Some things cannot be fixed, but they can sometimes be replaced or provide a life lesson on how to behave in the future too. How can she replace what she has broken? I replied by giving an analogy. When a woman has a miscarriage, she doesn't replace the child she has lost when she has another baby. She values the life of the child she has because she knows what it is like to lose a child or not have a child at all. She doesn't replace what she has lost. She must use her previous loss as a vehicle to find love in what she has now. I reiterated that she cannot replace or fix this. Her actions are permanent and cannot be undone. She must recover and use her experience to be better next time. 3. Is there anything she could do to allow us to be friends again? I replied by saying no. However, her being a great mother to our daughter and showing her how to recover from making the mistakes she made in her past would go a long way in making sure our shared interest is met. I explained there is no scenario in which I can give you forgiveness because it is not a gift I can give. This gift must come from yourself. I cannot be responsible for your happiness or forgiveness for, Would you allow me to keep trying? I respond. Sure, last session. In the last session, we made two major agreements. We came to an agreement that I would allow her to contact me outside of an emergency if she agreed to not speak about our relationship with our daughter. Please let her be a kid. She can call me directly if she wants to coordinate vacations, holidays, or gifts. I will agree to do one counseling session a year with her until our daughter is married or graduates from college. The goal of the session is to build a stronger co-parent relationship and ensure we are not letting our past ruin shared experiences with our daughter. Overall, it has been 3 months since our last session, and I believe that I did what was the most important immediate need for our child, which was ensure she does not feel she is responsible for me and her mother's happiness when it comes to her life. She is back to being a now 16-year-old teenager, worrying about boys' clothes and social status, which I am perfectly happy to deal with. As for my ex-wife, well, that is a whole another thread. Well, in my opinion, this man just cares about his daughter and co-parenting with his ex-wife, and I think he handled it quite well. A lot of these stories were these are people afraid to leave a relationship because they have a child with a spouse who has cheated or is cheating. You should not let a child dictate because they have a child with a spouse who has cheated or is cheating. You should not let a child dictate if you stay in an unhealthy marriage. You can co-parent. Story 2. Hey there, I'm Emma, and I'm only 26 years old. Can you believe it? 3 years ago, I tied the knot with the most stunning guy on the planet, Ethan. He's a total sweetheart, always making me feel like the luckiest girl alive. But hold on to your hats, folks, because here's the jaw dropper. My mother-in-law, Evelyn, is like the Wicked Witch of the West when it comes to me. She's been gunning for me since day one, and trust me, it's a roller coaster you won't want to miss. I totally get it. I mean, who wouldn't want to protect their precious baby boy, right? But brace yourselves for this shocker. Sometimes I think my mother-in-law, Evelyn, takes it to a whole new level. She's not just protecting her son, she's like the queen of subtle, innocent-seeming manipulations. She'll pull off these tiny, seemingly harmless acts that drive you up the wall, all while making you look like the crazy one. It's like she's got a master plan to mess with your mind. We've all encountered someone like that in our lives, haven't we? Well, buckle up, because I have to deal with this person on a regular basis. She's my mother-in-law. But here's the kicker. I was raised completely differently. I'm the kind of person who doesn't shy away from calling out nonsense. And trust me, I don't hold back. It's probably why Ethan fell head over heels for my personality, because he's the quiet, soft-spoken type. We're like yin and yang, folks. You know what they say, opposites attract. And boy, do they ever. I've dabbled in a bit of psychology myself, and trust me, I can spot those bad intentions from a mile away. It's like our strong personalities are like magnets, just drawing us into a clash. And speaking of clashes, let me take you back to the first time I met her. Evelyn looked me straight in the eye and dropped this bombshell. Emma, don't you think it's high time you cut back on all that eating? Can you believe it? Picture this. We're all sitting at the restaurant table, and the tension in the air is so thick you could cut it with a knife. I'm sitting there completely mortified, and my face is probably as pale as a ghost. It's just me, Ethan, my boyfriend at the time, George, my future father-in-law, and Evelyn at the table. George looks like he's been struck speechless and bows his head, almost as if he's trying to share in my embarrassment. It was one of those moments you just wish you could disappear from. Ethan was also feeling embarrassed, but he was also angry at his mother for saying that he aptly berated her. Really? Mom, that is such an awful thing to say. She could eat as much as she wants to. Oh no, sweetie, I didn't mean any harm. I just wanted to look out for you. You know, I've noticed that you've been gaining a lot of weight. Ethan has been showing me your photos from when you were younger, and you look so much better than not like now. But I don't mean to be offensive, sweetheart. I'm just trying to give you some advice. I tried my best to remain calm as I didn't want to cause a scene, but my embarrassment quickly started to turn into irritation nonetheless, because this was my first time meeting the family, and I wanted to make a lasting impression because I absolutely adored Ethan. For the first time in a long time, I held my tongue. I just smiled at her politely and thanked her for the unsolicited advice. Situations like that grew in frequency and strength as we got to know each other more. I genuinely believed that the taunting would stop at some point after she had determined that I was good for her son. But it only appeared to be getting worse. I was beginning to get along fine with my father-in-law, George, who is the sweetest man on earth. I see where Ethan gets it from. As much as I was growing closer and closer to everyone else in Ethan's family, Evelyn appeared to be the only one who disliked me, and for no apparent reason as well. I was even introduced to Ryan, Ethan's childhood friend. These two had practically grown up together, and George and Evelyn treated Ryan like a second son. Now don't get me wrong, Ethan was all in with our relationship, and it seemed like his entire family, including his extended family and Ryan, had welcomed me with open arms. It was like I had become a part of their close-knit circle. But guess who decided to be the exception? Yep, you guessed it. Evelyn had her own special issues with me. I'm so grateful for the love and support I managed to identify from the vast and overwhelming majority of Ethan's family. I received this love and support up until my wedding day, where my mother-in-law, of course, tried to do something conniving to get me to look bad on my special day. She made it a point to be as bothersome and as ridiculous as she could be. Honestly, she was acting like a bridezilla. No, her hair is supposed to be in an updo, just like how I did on my wedding day. I appreciate the help, Evelyn, but I want my hair to look like this. I don't think so. You look so ugly. The bridal party gasped, but unfortunately I was used to this, so it wasn't surprising. She quickly tried to rectify her mistake. Oh no, darling, no. I just mean that you can look so much better than you do now. And I would just like to say that I see a lot of myself in Emma. She is such a bright young woman. And even though I look much better than she did at her age, I would like to say that she is beautiful in her way. Although my father-in-law managed to get my mother-in-law to stop her ruthless antics on the day the pain and bitterness I felt remained. This was not in my nature to remain silent and unresponsive. I was losing my firecracker energy. This woman was slowly draining me, and it had to be put to an end. Fast forward 3 years to where the events of today's story take place. We found ourselves gathered around the dining table in Ethan's childhood home, the place where his parents still resided, on a quiet Sunday evening. My mother-in-law had extended the ever-so-gracious invitation to us, even including Ryan. You'd think it was a special occasion or something, given the way she'd invited us all. But I couldn't shake the nagging suspicion that there was more to this dinner plan than met the eye. And, as it turned out, my suspicions were right on the money. But at the time, it felt like a somewhat pleasant surprise. At some point, the ball dropped, and this is the beginning of what turned out to be a very messy series of events. My mother-in-law started to garner everyone's attention as she had an important announcement to make. She pulled out a paper and started reading it. Attention, everyone. I have an announcement to make. As you all know, my birthday's coming up, and so I wanted to let you know what I've been planning for the very special day. I've decided that we're going to take a trip to Hawaii. The paper was a confirmation of the Hawaii trip. That sounds fantastic. What? That's amazing. Emma, I've always wanted to go to Hawaii. Oh my goodness, this is great news. I'm so excited. I don't even know what to say. Thanks so much, Ma. Oh, actually, you're not coming, honey. What are you talking about? This wasn't part of the plan. I made some last-minute arrangements. I managed to cancel her ticket before they gave us extra charges. Oh, so my ticket was already bought. She just went ahead and canceled it. Why does this woman hate me so much? Mom, what are you talking about? Ryan and I seem to be the only ones silent in this whole situation. As a whole flurry of harsh words was exchanged back and forth. Eventually, after some poking and prodding for a decent enough excuse, Evelyn finally stated, Okay, fine. I'll tell you the reason why I thought it best that Emma sits this family event out. As you all know, I'm getting a little bit older, and I've decided that I want the remaining years of my life to be centered on being around the people I care most about. It was all going relatively well until my mother-in-law dropped a bombshell. She said, Unfortunately, Emma just doesn't belong on that list. My jaw practically hit the floor as I responded, Wow, Mom, really? What's the matter with you? She shot back, There's nothing wrong with me. Don't you dare disrespect me. I'm just stating a fact. I couldn't hold back and retorted, Well, by that logic, then Ryan shouldn't be able to go either, right? Since he isn't technically family, as you're stating. The tension at that dining table was thick enough to cut with a knife. But we all know that's preposterous. And he is part of the family. And ever since Ethan and Emma got married, that means she is part of the family. Well, obviously with Ryan, it's different, that he's just so precious and he's our sweet baby angel. He's always been here, but Emma hasn't. So that's why I'm just not comfortable with her coming on the trip. And it's my birthday, so I get to decide whatever we want. Come on, Emma. We're leaving at once. No. The way that I firmly said no commanded all of the attention in the room, including my antagonist, who was trying to stifle a smile this entire time. But at that moment, she wiped it off her face. Evelyn, you've made it clear since the beginning that you do not like me. And every day for the past 3 years, I have endured your insufferable illness. You think we all don't see how you act? You think that we all don't notice that you're a narcissist? Little girl, you better watch the way you speak to me. You are in my house and not for long, I'm not. I'm just about to leave, actually. Before things escalated further, I turned to my dear husband, who was glaring at his mother with fierce intensity. I took a deep breath and said, Babe, I love you with all my heart, and I've given this my best shot for a long time, but it's becoming clear to me that your mother will never fully embrace me as part of this family. No matter how hard I try, no matter how many times I swallow my words, she'll always have an issue with me. There was a heavy silence that hung in the air as I let those words sink in. You should go on this trip. You can't miss it as much as your mother is crazy. She's still your mother, and you love her, and she loves you. So you have to go. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. I then turned to my mother-in-law, whose mouth was agape because of what I just said. And that's for you. Unfortunately for you, I am in love with your son, and I'm not going anywhere. You might think that you can push me away, but I will always be here. Even when you go to Hawaii, you will always be thinking about me. Because if I'm being honest, I think you're obsessed with me. How dare you? I should slap you right now. I'm not finished. You are obsessed with me. You're obsessed with tearing me down, and I cannot even imagine why when all I've done is shown you kindness and patience, even when you didn't deserve it. But enough is enough. You don't want me to go to Hawaii with you? Fine. You don't think I'm part of the family? Fine. But I will always be here as long as I breathe. I will always be here for Ethan, George, and even Ryan, but never for you. At that moment, I realized that I finally shut her up. She left her mouth open as if she was searching for something to say. Anything to say. But her mind wouldn't let her. Finally, I managed to keep her quiet. I said goodbye to the rest of the family members, kissed my husband on the cheek, and began to walk out. Let me drive you home. At least I can't let you take a cab. Please don't worry about me, babe. I love you. And thank you so much for loving me. But I'll be fine. You have a trip to discuss, okay? If you say you're fine, then I'll believe you. Oh, don't forget your purse. Right, my purse. I left in the kitchen once I arrived. At some point, though, Evelyn went into the kitchen. I think to catch her breath after the whole situation. After being berated like that, I too would have done something similar. What do you want? Don't worry about me, sweetheart. I'm just here to collect my things. Well, make it quick. I want you out of my house. I can't believe you said those things to me with that. She quickly stormed out. She was filled with so much anger that she didn't even want to see me out the door. At that moment, I scoffed at her ridicule, hoarseness, and reached for my purse when I noticed a piece of paper next to it. My eyes glanced over it and noticed that it was Evelyn's handwriting. I believed that the time that it must have been a piece of paper detailing the itinerary for the trip. Because I was feeling a bit relieved about not going, I couldn't resist the temptation to sneak a peek and see the wild time I'd be skipping. So I snatched the letter and started reading. And then, boom! Right there in the letter it said, Beatrice Ryan, you've always been like a son to me, and you know I love you dearly. Whoa! So turns out this was a letter meant for Ryan. Bit strange, but I guess it's thoughtful. For some reason, my curious eyes began to read further. And the love and care you have shown for me throughout the years will never be forgotten. I hate to admit it, but even when it comes to my son Ethan, I feel as though the love we once shared is no longer there. Wait, what is she saying? She loves Ryan more than she loves Ethan. That simply couldn't be. I continued to read the paper, and with each new line, I got more astonished at what I was reading. I simply couldn't believe it. There was a lot to unpack, and even though it wasn't my place to read that letter, I'm really glad that I did. Once I finished reading the whole letter, I couldn't sit still. I started pacing back and forth in the kitchen, my mind racing, and then like a lightning bolt, it struck me. Everyone who absolutely needed to be in the know about this letter was right there in that room. This was the moment to take action. I gave the letter another read, just to double check that I wasn't going crazy or imagining things. And just as I thought, yep, it was the same thing I read the first time. I won't stop into the dining room to meet only 3 pairs of eyes looking back at me. Emma, I am so, so sorry for what my wife has tried to put you through. Don't worry one bit. You will come with us to Hawaii as long as I'm around. She's just in a funk right now. But don't worry, I'll convince her to change her mind. I don't know what's gotten into her recently, but don't worry. I will change her mind, as I said. George, please don't worry about me. As I said, I'm fine. I'm more than fine because I have found some interesting news that I need to share with everyone. And I especially need to share it with Ethan. Ethan and Ryan's ears perked up. I saw the flash of worry that ran across Ethan's face. Perhaps he thought that this was too much for me to handle, and that I wanted to ask for a divorce. Oftentimes, when I would complain about his mother to him, he'd agree with me and wonder how I managed to keep up with her. Nonsense for so long. I'd always tell him that it was because I loved him way too much to let him go, and that I'd go to hell and back for him. I noticed that Wicked Witch of the West wasn't around, so I asked. Whereas Evelyn, she needs to be here for this too. Oh, I mentioned earlier she appears to be in a bit of a funk after you shouted at her. She mentioned having a slight headache and decided to retreat upstairs for a nap to nurse it. We knew she wouldn't be back down for quite some time because she's really particular about her beauty sleep, and her routines tend to inconvenience others, which usually left me feeling annoyed. But this situation was different. It was absolutely crucial for her to be present. It's okay, Emma. You can tell us and we'll inform her when she wakes up. I hesitated, considering the information that I knew I wanted to see the redness on her face from embarrassment. I think you should just go ahead and tell us, sweetie. It's okay. And you know Ethan has anxiety. It would be bad to keep him waiting. That was true. Ethan's anxiety got really bad at times, and I could see him begin to fidget from the anticipation. Okay, fine. I'll show you guys what I found when I was in the kitchen collecting my purse and getting ready to leave. I found something interesting that I think you all need to know about. I pulled out the paper I found and began to read. It reads, Dearest Ryan, you know that you have always been like a son to me, and you know that I love you dearly, and the love and care you have shown for me throughout the years will never be forgotten. I hate to admit it, but even when it comes to my son Ethan, I feel as though the love we once shared is no longer there. What the? What is she saying? What is this? I continued reading. Ethan, I just don't see eye to eye like we used to. And honestly, I think it's because of Emma. Ever since he married that girl, he no longer has time for me. He doesn't love me. And therefore, I don't think I love him. I love you. And you are my son. And on that note, I need to inform you that I've decided to revise my will to ensure that all my possessions go to you and not Ethan. I'm aware it might hurt him, but frankly, I've reached a point where I couldn't care less. It's that dreadful Emma woman who has tainted my affection for him. I hope you've received and understood this letter. Well, the reason why I didn't want to approach you about it in person is that, and it pains me to admit this, I couldn't risk seeing the rejection on your face. I know you love Ethan like your brother, and most likely you won't approve, but I don't care. I'm giving you everything. The money, the house, the cars, and even my small businesses. They're all yours, whether you like it or not. If you want to talk about this further, please call me and we can discuss it. I look forward to hearing your response. I will love you forever and always. Your second mom. I finally looked up from reading the letter, and I was met with a flurry of mixed emotions. George looked like he was going to cry. Ryan looked stunned. But Ethan. Ethan looked like he was going to murder someone. I can't believe she said all those things. Is she being serious right now? So the reason why she's doing all of this is because of Emma. She hates Emma so much that she'd not include me in her will just to spite me and Emma. She's officially lost her mind, you guys. I don't even know what to say. This has gone far enough. I've had it with this woman and her toxic behavior. What are we going to do? At that moment, I had an idea. 1 week had gone by, and it was time for the designated Hawaii trip. Evelyn woke up and found a letter from her husband on her bedside table. It read, Good morning, gorgeous. We decided to let you get some more beauty rest. Don't worry, your bags have all been packed. Just find us at the airport. Evelyn then got ready and headed to the airport, looking around frantically for the people with whom she was meant to go on this birthday trip. She tried calling them, but they all wouldn't answer. She jumped to the assumption that they must have already boarded the plane, making it impossible for them to answer her call. In a state of panic, she hurriedly made her way onto her own flight, desperately hoping to catch up with them once they touched down in Hawaii. The grueling 12-hour flight felt like an eternity, and as soon as she disembarked, she video called George. Hey George, where on earth are you guys? I overslept and just saw your note, which would have been a cute idea if I hadn't slept in so late. I got to the airport and tried calling you guys, but none of you were responding. I just assumed that you were already boarded, but it doesn't matter now, because now we're in Hawaii. How amazing. Tell me where you are so we can meet up and let the festivities begin. That won't be happening, Evelyn. Well, what do you mean? Tell me where you are. I'm at home. What? You heard me? I'm at home. We're all at home. Say hi, everyone. George panned out his phone to show that everyone himself, Ryan, Ethan, and me, were all in his house, sitting at the same dining table where we all heard the tragic news from a week before. What do you mean? Why are you at home? You see, Evelyn, Emma brought some interesting information to our attention a week ago, and ever since then, we decided that we'd much rather spend our time in boring old Florida with her than anywhere else with you. Evelyn gasped. You think we wouldn't find out? Find out what? My baby. Oh, don't you baby me. You were really going to cut me out of the will. Mom, I who? How did you even find out about that? Oh, that wretched girl that you hate so much. Emma found your stupid letter in the kitchen. I don't know what you're talking about, Evelyn. Lying right now is only adding more nails to the coffin. Ryan, tell them you got to believe me. I did nothing of the sort. We all read the letter, Evelyn. The jig is up. But But I didn't do anything. Emma is making everything up. Oh, am I? You are so pathetic. It actually makes me sick. We all know what you said and what you tried to do. Thank God I was nosy enough to read the whole thing, Ethan. George, please. No, Evelyn, enough is enough. You're done. You don't get to say anything else. You messed up big time. Your hatred has caused you to be blind. Now you have to suffer the consequences of being alone on your birthday because of what you've done. I hope you can use this time in Hawaii to reflect on your actions. But I'll be alone. It won't be fun. Maybe people would like to hang out with you more if you weren't such a raging wit. Have fun. And with that, George hung up the phone. We all let out a sigh of relief, and I was the first person to start laughing. Eventually, Ethan joined in, and before we knew it, we were all bursting with laughing and cackling at the dining table, just laughing at how crazy the situation was. The look on her face once she realized the gig was up was hilarious. Her face turned pale. All the blood drained from her face, and I could tell that that was the first time in a long time that she felt embarrassed. Evelyn had to spend her vacation alone, oftentimes calling George to see if he at least would come and join her, because canceling the reservation she made would be expensive. But every time he kept denying it. He said that when she comes back, they were going to have to implement some ground rules that were to be followed if she still wanted to be married to him. Evelyn began to be very apologetic and frantic, a complete 180 from what she normally acted like, which was honestly surprising. Ethan also mentioned that if Evelyn still wanted to be in his life, she had to drastically change her attitude. Otherwise, he was ready to walk out of her life forever. Their relationship is still rocky, and Ethan said that if Evelyn ever disrespected him ever again, even if it's the smallest snide remark she could make, he would cut her off completely the same way that she was planning on cutting him off. As for Ryan, he thought it best to stop being so nice to Evelyn, as it was clearly enabling her toxic behavior. So not only did Evelyn end up spending a miserable time in a beautiful place, but she also risked losing the three most important people in her life. She now has very rocky relationships with all of them, and she has to change to be better. As for me, I messaged her and told her that I need time to see if I'm going to forgive her for all of her injustices, and she was apologizing and begging for me to talk some sense into the men in her life. I obviously refused, stating that this is the bed she made for herself, and now she has to lay in it. And even to this day, Evelyn is still trying to mend the very broken relationships that she caused. I just hope that she learned her lesson. Story 3. My parents abandoned me during my surgery and went to my sister's party, so I cut them off. Months later, they expected me to attend her wedding. Hey Reddit, long-time lurker, first-time poster. Grab your popcorn and enjoy the shit show of my family's dysfunction. Name's Lucas, 34 male. I'm writing this from my home office where I've been staring at my family photos for the past hour. Thought it's time to share this story with you fellas. This whole thing started simple enough. Got into an accident, needed surgery, family had a conflict, but the way it unraveled showed me who these people really were. And honestly, I should have seen this coming. Now let me give you a quick background so you understand the dynamic here. When I was 17, I got accepted to a state university with a partial scholarship. Not a full ride, but enough to make college affordable. My parents threw a dinner to celebrate. Halfway through, Savannah announced she'd made the cheer squad. Suddenly, the dinner became about her. Mom spent the rest of the night talking about uniform costs and competition schedules. Dad asked if I could maybe defer a year so they could focus on Savannah's activities. I didn't defer. Took out loans instead. Nobody noticed. When I was 23, I landed my first real job after graduation. Decent salary, benefits, future. Told my family at Sunday dinner. Connor was there with his girlfriend Savannah, had just gotten engaged. My job announcement lasted maybe 2 minutes before Mom started showing everyone Savannah's ring. Dad said congrats and asked if I could chip in for the engagement party I did. Wrote them a check for $800 I couldn't afford. They spent $1,200 on centerpieces alone. That's how it's always been. I show up, I help out. And when I need something, everyone's schedule is suddenly packed. So yeah, I should have seen this coming. I'm 30 years old and got hit by a pickup truck 8 months ago. Guy ran a red light doing 50 in a 25. I ended up with 3 herniated discs and nerve damage that made my left leg go numb half the time. Doctors said I needed spinal fusion surgery. Not optional. Surgery got scheduled for June 14th. Not my choice of timing. That's when the specialist had an opening I'd been waiting 4 months and wasn't about to push it back another 6. My girlfriend Haley, 26, took time off from her nursing job to help with recovery. Her brother Drew, a lawyer, offered to help with any paperwork while I was out. My family knew about the surgery the day I scheduled it. Told them at Sunday dinner back in February, Mom said all the right things. Dad nodded along. Savannah acted concerned for 30 seconds before pivoting to her engagement. My older brother Connor at least asked which hospital everything seemed fine until Savannah announced her bachelorette party 3 weeks before my surgery. Destination weekend in Scottsdale. She'd been planning it for months, apparently. Just forgot to mention it. The dates? June 13th through 16th. Right over my surgery. When I pointed out the conflict, Savannah laughed. Just reschedule it. Your doctor has to have other openings. Savannah, it's spinal surgery. I've been waiting 4 months. The next slot is December. So wait till December. I already put down deposits. My friends took time off. This is my party. Mom jumped in before I could respond. She's right, honey. This is a once-in-a-lifetime celebration. I'm sure your doctor can work something out. I reminded them the surgery date wasn't flexible. The surgeon had a waiting list 6 months deep. If I gave up this slot, I'd be looking at December at the earliest. 6 more months of my back getting worse. 6 more months of nerve damage that might become permanent. Mom's response? Well, that's unfortunate timing. That's when it clicked. They wanted me to postpone surgery so Savannah could have her party without guilt. Haley heard the whole conversation from the kitchen. After they left, she just looked at me and said, "Your family's messed up. You know that, right?" The next week, Mom called with her compromise. She'd found another surgeon in the family insurance network. Guy had availability in August. Wanted me to switch doctors and push everything back 2 months. I checked him out. Fresh out of residency. No specialization in spinal fusion. Every review mentioned long wait times and poor communication. I told her no. She didn't take it well. Went into a speech about family sacrifice and how I'd understand when I was a parent someday. I was sitting there with shooting pain down my leg, listening to her explain why my surgery should take a backseat to mimosas in Arizona. Dad stayed quiet. That's his thing. Finally spoke up to say he hoped we could all work something out. Translation: he hoped I'd cave so he didn't have to deal with Mom and Savannah. Savannah escalated fast. Started texting me multiple times a day. Each message more dramatic than the last. She was devastated. She'd been dreaming of this party for years. All her friends had arranged time off. The Airbnb was non-refundable. Every excuse except the obvious one. Connor chimed in exactly once. Sent a text saying he had a big client presentation that week anyway. Haley's family had the opposite reaction. Her mom started organizing a meal train for after surgery. Her dad offered to drive me to follow-up appointments. Drew said he'd handle any work emergencies. They barely knew me, and they cared more about my health than my own parents. That's when I realized I'd been making excuses for my family my whole life. This wasn't new behavior. It was just more obvious. I'd just been too accommodating to push back. Not this time. 2 weeks before surgery, Mom showed up at my apartment unannounced, brought one of those grocery store cakes with "sorry" written in icing. Said she wanted to clear the air. What she meant was, she wanted one last shot at changing my mind. She sat at my kitchen table and pulled out her phone. Showed me Savannah's Pinterest board. Custom t-shirts, matching sunglasses, a planned photo shoot at some desert resort. Mom talked about how much time and money had gone into planning this. How disappointed everyone would be if Savannah wasn't her happiest. That's when I remembered the $22,000. 3 years ago, my parents were drowning. Dad got laid off. Mom's boutique was bleeding money. 2 months behind on their mortgage. Looking at foreclosure, I'd just gotten a decent bonus from work. Gave them $22,000. We'll pay you back when things stabilize, they said. They stabilized. Dad found work. Mom started pulling real estate commission. They refinanced, bought a new car, took Savannah to Europe, never mentioned paying me back. I let her finish. Then I asked if she'd be at my surgery. She did this thing where she pressed her lips together and looked away. I have to think about it. Savannah's feelings matter too. I don't want to create tension. Right. So maybe now's a good time to talk about that $22,000 you borrowed. Her face went white. What the heck do you mean? You heard me. That was family helping family. You can't be serious. Dead serious. You've had 3 years Dad's working. You're pulling commission. Time to start paying it back. Seriously now? I can't believe you'd throw that in my face during a difficult time. That's not who I raised. Difficult time? My back's falling apart and you're planning a pool party in Arizona. If you can't show up for surgery, at least show up financially. Mom left without finishing her cake. Haley had been listening from the bedroom. She came out after Mom drove off and said that was cold. I said no. Cold would be taking them to small claims court. This was me being nice. The texts started that night. Savannah going off about how I was using money to manipulate the family. Mom sending paragraphs about betrayal and trust. Connor weighed in saying I was being petty. Dad sent exactly one message. Let's not make this about money. Too late. It was about money now. Also about respect, boundaries, and priorities. But mostly about them realizing I wasn't the pushover son anymore. Drew, Haley's brother, asked if I wanted him to draft a formal demand letter. He said $22,000 without a written agreement would be tough to collect, but a lawyer's letterhead sometimes got people motivated. I told him to hold off. I wanted to see how surgery day played out. Savannah posted a long Instagram story about family betrayal and people who keep score. Didn't name me. The comments were split. One of my cousins asked if this was about Savannah skipping something important. Savannah deleted it within 5 minutes. Mom called Haley directly. Big mistake. Haley's a nurse. She's seen real problems. She's held people's hands through tough shifts. She doesn't have patience for drama, Haley answered on speaker. Hello, Mrs. Monroe. Haley, sweetheart, I'm hoping you can help me here. This situation with the surgery date, it's just so difficult for everyone. Maybe you could talk to him about being more flexible? Flexible about spinal surgery? Well, yes. The family needs to compromise. You'll understand when you're a mother someday. Haley cut her off. I understand right now that your son might have permanent nerve damage, and you're choosing a party over his health. If you're not at that hospital, don't expect to be part of our lives going forward. The line went quiet. Then Mom started to respond, but Haley had already hung up. I'd never liked my girlfriend more than that moment. With 1 week to go, I sent a group text to my parents and siblings. Kept it simple. Surgery's June 14th at 7 a.m., St. Vincent's Hospital. I'll be in recovery by noon. I'd like my family there. But I'm not begging. Connor responded first. Can't make it. Savannah didn't respond. Dad said he'd try. Mom sent 3 paragraphs about how hurt she was. Haley's family RSVP'd yes within 10 minutes. The night before surgery, I got a call from my Aunt Colleen. She's my mom's older sister and the only family member who regularly called out Mom's nonsense. Tell me I'm hearing this wrong. Your mom's skipping your surgery for Savannah's party? You're hearing it right. Good grief. I shouldn't be surprised, but I am. You doing okay? Been better. Been worse. I'm coming. I'll leave Portland at 3 a.m. if I have to. Colleen, that's a 5-hour drive. Good thing I'm leaving early then. Your mom raised an idiot for a daughter, but she didn't raise me. I'll see you at St. Vincent's. That call meant more than she thought. Woke up at 4:30 a.m. on June 14th. Haley had already made coffee. Drew showed up at 5 a.m. to drive us to the hospital. The surgery center had a waiting room with awful vinyl chairs and outdated magazines. Haley's parents arrived at 6 a.m. with breakfast sandwiches. Aunt Colleen walked in at 6:30 a.m., holding a thermos of coffee and a crossword puzzle book. She hugged me hard enough to hurt my back. Said she wouldn't have missed this for anything. I asked if she'd talked to Mom. She said Mom told her she was making a big deal out of nothing. Her response was to stop talking to Mom and drive to the hospital. 7 a.m. came. Nurse called my name. I looked around the waiting room one last time. My parents weren't there. Savannah wasn't there. Connor wasn't there. But Haley was. Her family was. Aunt Colleen was. That would have to be enough. The surgery took 6 hours. They had to fuse 3 vertebrae and clean up nerve damage. Came out of anesthesia around 2 p.m., feeling like I'd been hit by that truck all over again. First person I saw when I opened my eyes was Haley. She was holding my hand and crying a little. Said everything went well. The surgeon was pleased I asked if anyone else showed up. She shook her head. I nodded and closed my eyes. Wasn't surprised. Still hurt, though. Haley's family rotated through recovery. Her mom brought photos of their dog to cheer me up. Her dad asked the surgeon technical questions. Drew handled discharge paperwork and prescriptions. Aunt Colleen stayed until visiting hours ended. Said she'd be back tomorrow. My phone had 20 text messages. None from my immediate family. Most were from cousins and extended family who'd heard about the surgery. A few from work colleagues. One from my boss saying take all the time I needed. Around 8 p.m., Savannah posted an Instagram story from Scottsdale. Her and her friends in matching pink outfits holding cocktails by a pool. Caption said, "Best weekend ever with these queens." She'd hashtagged it, Bachelorette, Sisters, and Family First. Pretty ironic considering. Haley saw me looking at it. Walked over and took the phone out of my hand. Don't do that to yourself. She actually hashtagged Family First. She's an idiot. You knew that before surgery. Still hurts. I know it does, but you need rest, not rage. Rest. Those don't mix right now. She put the phone in her purse. She was right. But the rage was there anyway. The next 2 days in the hospital blurred together. Pain meds made me nauseous. Physical therapy started, and I couldn't walk more than 10 feet without wanting to collapse. Haley stayed overnight. Never complained once. Aunt Colleen came back with food from a Mexican place. We ate tacos and watched trash TV. Day 3, I got discharged. Drew drove me home. Haley had already set up a recovery station in the living room. She'd taken 2 weeks off work to help me through the worst of it. My first night home, Dad texted. Heard the surgery went well. Glad you're okay. That was it. 2 sentences after a 6-hour spinal fusion. No apology, no explanation for not showing up. Just glad you're okay, like I'd gotten over a cold. I didn't respond. Savannah got back from Scottsdale on day 4 of my recovery, posted about 50 photos from the trip. The comments were all variations of "you looked amazing" and "best bride ever." Mom finally called on day 5. Didn't lead with an apology. Didn't ask how I was feeling. I hope you understand why we couldn't be there. Family obligations are complicated. Savannah needed our support. She needed support drinking by a pool. Don't be cruel. This was her bachelorette party. You're being incredibly selfish about this. Here's what's happening, though. That $22,000. I want a payment plan in writing by end of the month, $500 a month. You're using money to manipulate us now? I didn't raise you to... Second thing, don't expect to hear from me for a while. I need to focus on people who actually give a darn. She started crying. Said Savannah was her daughter too and deserves support. I said Savannah got plenty of support based on her 37 Instagram posts from Scottsdale. Then I hung up. Haley was proud. Said I handled it better than she would have. Drew asked again if I wanted him to draft that demand letter. You really think it'll work? No written agreement, just texts. The texts are solid. They acknowledge the debt multiple times. Promise to pay. Make excuses. That's evidence. And if they ignore it, then we go to civil court. It'll be messy, but you'll win. The judge will see exactly what I see. A pattern of broken promises. This time I said yes. The letter went out the next week. Very official. Laid out the timeline of the loan, the lack of repayment, and a proposed payment schedule of $500 a month for 44 months. Drew CC'd me on it. I'd given them 3 years of flexibility. That flexibility was over. Mom called it blackmail. Dad called it unnecessary. Savannah called it proof I'd never cared about family. Connor said I was making everyone uncomfortable. None of them said they wouldn't pay interesting. Physical therapy continued 3 times a week. Progress was slow. Haley never made me feel weak about it. She just adjusted the plan and kept pushing me forward. Aunt Colleen visited every weekend, brought food, helped with errands, told stories about Mom from when they were kids. 8 weeks post-surgery, I was walking without assistance. 12 weeks I was driving again. 16 weeks I was back at work part-time. Through all of it, my parents sent occasional texts asking how I was doing. Never apologized. The $22,000 became the new battle. They'd send $200 one month, skip the next entirely, then send $150 and act like they were going above and beyond. Drew sent follow-up letters. They ignored them. I documented everything, saved every text, every email, every broken promise. Haley said I should just write it off, cut my losses. But this wasn't about the money anymore. It was about them realizing actions had consequences. For the first time in their lives, I wasn't bending, and they had no idea how to handle it. Haley and I got engaged 4 months after my surgery. We were hiking in the gorge, and I just asked her, "Marry me." She stopped walking. "That's it?" She smiled. "My back works. You stayed through all of it. I'm not waiting for a better moment. So yeah, marry me." She said yes before I finished the question. We'd already been talking about getting married. The surgery had just made it obvious we were solid. We set a date for the following October. Small ceremony. Close friends and family. By family, I meant her family and Aunt Colleen. My parents weren't invited. Neither was Savannah. Neither was Connor. Found out about Savannah's actual wedding date around the same time she'd set it for September, 2 weeks before ours. Sent out save the dates that looked expensive. She texted me once about it. Said she'd love to see me there despite everything. Said maybe we could put the past behind us. I didn't respond. Mom tried a different angle. Called Haley directly. Asked if Haley could convince me to reconsider. Played the life's too short and family's forever card. Haley listened politely. Then she said, "Ma'am, your son asked me to marry him in a hospital parking lot after you skipped his surgery. I'm not convincing him of anything, except that he made the right choice cutting you off." The payment situation hadn't improved. They'd sent maybe $2,800 total over 6 months. Drew said we could take them to civil court, but it would be messy. I said, let it be messy. He filed the paperwork. That got their attention. Dad called 3 times in one day. Left voicemails talking about how disappointed he was that I'd involved lawyers. How we were family and should handle this privately. How embarrassing this was for everyone. Never once mentioned paying what they owed, just upset about the embarrassment. The court date got scheduled for November. They'd have to show up and explain to a judge why they'd borrowed $22,000 and paid back less than 15% in 3 years. Drew was confident we'd win. Said the text messages alone proved they acknowledged the debt. Savannah's wedding came and went. I saw photos on social media. Mom posted about 50 pictures with captions about her beautiful daughter and perfect day. Tagged Dad and Connor, didn't tag me. Our wedding was different. We had 30 people. Aunt Colleen gave a toast that made everyone cry. Haley's dad walked her down the aisle. Drew was my best man. We got married at a state park with mountains in the background. The whole thing cost less than $4,000. Savannah probably spent that on flowers alone. And it was perfect. No family drama, no guilt trips, no wondering if my own mother would show up. Everyone there wanted to be there. That was worth more than any expensive venue. We honeymooned in Montana, stayed in a cabin with no cell service. Hiked every day. Haley took photos of me actually being able to walk. Said it was wild compared to a year ago. She was right. The surgery worked. I'd made the right choice not postponing. Mom found out about the wedding from Aunt Colleen. Called me 2 days after we got back. You got married and didn't tell us? You intentionally excluded your family? You mean the family that skipped my surgery for a party? We explained that Savannah needed support. And now you've gone and... That's funny. She seemed plenty supported in all those Scottsdale photos. You've destroyed any chance we had at fixing this. Your father is devastated. Do you even care? Not particularly. I hung up, blocked her number, blocked Savannah's, blocked Dad's, kept Connor unblocked because he'd barely tried anyway. He never reached out. Drew said blocking them might look bad for the court case, made it seem like I was the aggressor. I said I didn't care. My mental health was worth more than legal optics. He said fair enough, and adjusted his strategy. The civil court hearing was scheduled for November 12th. They tried to get it postponed twice. Judge denied both requests. Drew prepared a timeline of communications. Every text where they acknowledged the debt, every promise to pay that didn't happen, every excuse about why this month was difficult. Haley offered to come for moral support. I said no. Didn't want her to see my family's circus up close. She dealt with enough of their garbage. Day of the hearing arrived. My parents showed up 15 minutes late. No Savannah, no Connor, just Mom and Dad looking uncomfortable. The judge reviewed the evidence. Do you dispute owing this money? Dad started to explain. Your Honor, this was family helping family. We didn't think... I asked if you dispute receiving $22,000 from your son. No, but have you paid it back? Mom jumped in. We've made some payments. We're trying. How much exactly? Mom looked at Dad. Neither answered. Drew provided the exact numbers. $2,800 over 3 years. The judge looked at my parents over her glasses. Is there a reason you can't manage $500 a month? Dad started explaining about expenses and Savannah's wedding. The judge's expression said everything. Judgment in my favor. Full amount plus court costs and interest. Payment plan of $650 a month for 3 years. If they missed more than 2 payments, I could garnish wages. The judge noted they'd acknowledged the debt repeatedly in writing, and that the payment plan was more than reasonable. Then she moved on to the next case. Mom tried to talk to me outside the courtroom. I walked past her. Drew handed them a copy of the judgment and said payments start December 1st. We left them standing there. The first payment was late. Surprise, surprise. Due December 1st. Showed up December 19th, $450 instead of $650. Drew sent a formal notice. They had until January to make up the difference, or I'd file for wage garnishment. Dad called from a number I didn't have blocked. Son, about this month's payment. $450 is better than nothing, right? We're really trying here. The judge said $650, not $450 when you feel like it. You know how tight things are. We're doing our best. Your best was 3 years of broken promises. The judge disagreed with your definition of best. Don't do this. We're family. Tell that to the garnishment order Drew is filing. I hung up. The full $650 showed up 3 days later. January payment came on time. Full $650. I should have known that meant something was coming. Then Savannah showed up at my apartment on a Tuesday morning. I work from home 2 days a week. Haley was at the hospital. I was in a meeting on mute when the doorbell rang. Figured it was a delivery. Opened the door still holding my laptop. She pushed past me into the apartment. Started talking immediately. We need to talk about what you're doing to this family. I set my laptop down. You need to leave. No. You've been hiding behind lawyers and court orders. Mom's a wreck. You sued your own parents over money. How could you? They borrowed $22,000 and paid back $2,800. That's not a family gift. That's theft. Everything's always about you, your surgery, your money, your precious boundaries. She started walking through the apartment, opened my fridge, picked up Haley's textbooks from the coffee table, playing some power game. Savannah, you have 60 seconds to get out or I'm calling the cops. She laughed. You wouldn't call the cops on your own sister. I pulled out my phone and started dialing. She stared at me for a second, mumbled, "You're such a jerk," then left. Slammed the door hard enough to rattle the frame. I stood there for a minute making sure she was actually gone. Good thing Haley and I had installed a video doorbell after someone broke into our building's parking garage. It had recorded everything. Then I called Drew. He said to save the doorbell footage. Document everything. If she showed up again, call the police immediately. Don't engage. Don't argue. Just document and report. She showed up again 4 days later. This time I wasn't home. Haley was. Savannah rang the doorbell for 10 minutes straight. Haley didn't answer. The doorbell caught the whole thing. Savannah eventually left, but not before yelling through the door about what a terrible person I was and how I'd destroyed the family. Haley was shaken when I got home. She said we needed to do something before this got worse. Drew agreed. Said Savannah's behavior met the criteria for harassment. 2 unwanted contacts. 1 forced entry. 1 extended disturbance. He could file for a restraining order. What about your parents? Haley asked. Your mom showed up at your work. Your dad won't stop calling. They're not as bad as Savannah. Not as bad isn't the same as acceptable. They're backing her up. Drew nodded. Haley's right. The pattern includes all 3. We include them all or the order looks incomplete. It'll make things ugly. They already made things ugly, Haley said. We're just making it stop. He warned me it would become public record. Everyone would take sides. I said let them take sides. I was done being afraid of making them uncomfortable. The restraining order application went in the next week. Included doorbell footage of Savannah's forced entry and harassment. Haley's statement. My own documentation. Drew added mom's workplace ambush where security had to escort her out. And dad's series of voicemails after I'd blocked them. The pattern was clear across all 3. Drew said we'd likely get a temporary order while it processed. Then a hearing to make it permanent. Mom found out before we even got the temporary order. She showed up at my work, actually walked into my office building and demanded to see me. Security called me. I came down to find her in the lobby crying and talking about how her children were destroying each other. Made a whole scene, had to be escorted out. That went in the application too. Dad started leaving voicemails. Long rambling ones about family forgiveness and Christian values. Those voicemails got added to the pile. The temporary restraining order came through. All 3 of them had to stay 500 feet away from me, Haley, our home, and my workplace. No contact. Violation meant jail time. Connor called from his unblocked number. First time I'd heard from him in 8 months. You got a restraining order against mom and dad? That's extreme, man. Savannah forced her way into my apartment. Mom showed up at my workplace. Dad won't stop calling. That's harassment. They're just trying to fix things. You're destroying the family. I'm protecting my family. Haley and me. That's my family now. I hung up. He didn't call back. The permanent hearing got scheduled for March. Drew said my parents could contest it, but it wouldn't go well. The evidence was clear. Multiple incidents of unwanted contact, escalating behavior, 1 forced entry, reasonable fear of future harassment. Savannah hired a lawyer. She tried to argue she was just trying to have a conversation. Her lawyer pulled the doorbell footage in discovery. Saw Savannah push past me into the apartment. Saw her come back 4 days later and yell through the door for 10 minutes. The lawyer apparently told her she didn't have a case. She fired him and represented herself. Big mistake. The hearing was straightforward. Drew presented the evidence, played the videos of Savannah's forced entry and harassment, read Haley's statement, showed documentation of mom's workplace incident, and the flowers sent after we'd blocked contact, presented dad's voicemails continuing contact after being told to stop, asked if there was any doubt about the pattern. The judge looked at my parents and Savannah asked if they had anything to say. Dad tried to explain about family disagreements. The judge asked if family disagreements typically involved showing up at someone's workplace and home after being told to stop. Dad didn't have a good answer. Savannah said she just wanted to talk to her brother. The judge asked if she understood what the word no meant. Savannah said family should work through problems together. The judge said not when one member clearly wants space and the others refuse to respect that 3-year restraining order. All of them. 500 feet minimum distance. No contact whatsoever. Violations would result in immediate arrest. Haley hugged me outside the courthouse. Said she was proud of me. Then we went home. That night, I slept better than I had in a year. Life got quiet after the restraining order. Weirdly quiet. The $650 payments continued mostly on time. A couple of late ones here and there, but nothing worth pursuing. Drew said as long as they didn't miss 2 in a row, the judge would consider them compliant. I stopped checking the account, just let it auto-deposit and moved on. Haley got pregnant 4 months after the hearing. We'd been trying for a while. The timing felt right. We told her family immediately. They were pumped. Her mom cried. Her dad started building a crib. Drew bought baby books before we even confirmed the gender. We didn't tell my family. They found out through social media. Haley posted an ultrasound photo. Someone from my extended family must have seen it because Aunt Colleen called within an hour. She congratulated us and said she wanted to be involved. We told her she was invited to everything, that she'd always been more family than my actual family. She got emotional. Mom tried to call from a blocked number. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail congratulating us and asking if we could please talk. Said she wanted to be part of her grandchild's life. The voicemail was forwarded to Drew. He said to document it, but don't respond. Any response would give her an opening. The bomb? Savannah got divorced. It got finalized around the same time. Heard about it through the cousin grapevine. Apparently her husband discovered she'd been using their joint credit cards to fund a lifestyle they couldn't afford. He found out when he applied for a car loan and learned they were $40,000 in debt. They'd barely made it past their first anniversary. Mom blamed him. Went on Facebook and posted about how her daughter deserved better. How some people can't handle a strong woman. The usual denial. But that wasn't my problem to fix. The pregnancy went smooth. Haley worked until she was 8 months along. The hospital gave her a desk position for the last month. Her family threw a baby shower. Aunt Colleen came and brought half of Portland with her. My cousin who'd always had my back showed up too. My parents didn't show up, obviously. The baby came in September. Healthy girl. Haley's parents were at the hospital within an hour. Drew brought coffee and donuts. Aunt Colleen drove down the day after and stayed a week helping out. Between Haley's family and Aunt Colleen, we had more support than we knew what to do with. Mom sent flowers to the hospital. They went to the nurse's station. Figured they could enjoy them instead. We named the baby Harper, Haley's grandmother's name. When we posted the birth announcement, Mom commented within minutes. So beautiful. Can't wait to meet her. Haley deleted the comment and blocked her. Connor sent a text. First one in over a year. Congratulations. That was it. One word. I didn't respond. Life with a newborn was exactly as exhausting as everyone warned. Haley was healing from a rough delivery. I was juggling work and baby duty and trying not to lose my mind. But we had help. Haley's mom came over 3 times a week. Aunt Colleen video called every night. Drew brought groceries and assembled baby furniture. My parents did nothing, contributed nothing, and I didn't miss them at all. 3 months later, Savannah violated the restraining order. She showed up at Haley's hospital, walked right into the maternity ward, started demanding to see Haley, said she just wanted to meet her niece, made a scene loud enough that security got called. Haley wasn't even on shift that day. She'd swapped with someone and was home with Harper. But Savannah didn't know that. Security reviewed her ID, saw her name match the restraining order on file, called the police. Savannah got arrested in the hospital lobby, booked for violating a court order, spent the night in jail. Mom paid her bail the next morning. Drew got the police report, said we could use it to extend the restraining order. I said we definitely wanted. The violation hearing was quick. The judge extended the order to 5 years. Added a note that any future violations would result in criminal charges beyond civil contempt. Mom posted on Facebook about how the justice system was broken, how her daughter was being persecuted for trying to connect with family. Dad stayed quiet. He'd been paying the $650 a month without fail since Savannah's arrest. Drew said he'd probably been advised by a lawyer to keep his head down. The restraining order violation had made their whole family look unstable. Harper turned 6 months old, started sleeping through the night. Haley went back to work full-time. We'd found a rhythm. Our little family unit was solid. Aunt Colleen sent a photo of my parents at some family gathering. They looked older. Mom's hair had gone mostly gray. Dad had gained weight. Colleen said they asked about me, about Haley, about Harper. She said she told them everyone was doing well and left it at that. I appreciated her discretion but didn't need updates. So she stopped until she called me one day with the final heads up. Harper's 3rd birthday party was 2 weeks away when my phone rang. Colleen, your mom asked me to pass along a message. I told her I wouldn't, but figured you should know she tried. What did she want? She's got some medical thing needs a procedure. Minor, but she's playing it up. Wants you to know before her surgery date. Thinks if you hear she's going under the knife, you'll feel guilty and reach out. I almost laughed. She's using surgery as bait? I told her she's delusional if she thinks that'll work. But your mom's convinced the restraining order expiring in 6 months means you'll come around. After we hung up, Haley found me staring at my phone. What's wrong? Mom's having surgery. Some procedure. She sat down next to me. What kind of surgery? Doesn't matter. Could be life-threatening or a mole removal. You want to reach out? No, but I keep thinking, what if it's serious? She skipped your spinal fusion for a party she's had 3 years to apologize. So why consider this? You're not keeping Harper from a grandmother. You're keeping her from people who can't respect basic boundaries. She was right. 2 days later, Drew called, said he'd gotten a letter from my parents' lawyer. It outlined Mom's upcoming procedure and expressed hope that medical circumstances might open dialogue. It's a Hail Mary, Drew said. They're trying to manufacture sympathy now. What's the procedure? Gallbladder removal, routine. She'll be home same day. Not life-threatening. Just enough to play victim. I didn't respond. Didn't take the bait. Harper's 3rd birthday party was everything a kid's party should be. Haley's family came. Drew brought his new girlfriend, Aunt Colleen, drove down with presents. My cousin showed up with her kids. Everyone who mattered was there. My parents weren't there. The restraining order was still active. They'd paid off the $22,000 plus court costs and interest 6 months earlier. Financial obligation complete. Mom had her surgery 3 days after Harper's party. Aunt Colleen texted to let me know it went fine. I replied with a thumbs up. I used to wonder if I'd regret cutting them off, if Harper would resent not knowing her grandparents 3 years later, and I've got my answer. No regrets. Don't miss them. Harper's fine. Some people spend their whole lives trying to fix broken family relationships. I chose to stop showing up where I wasn't valued. Best decision I ever made. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks. Story 4. My parents tried forcing me to be my sister's free nanny by threatening to raise my rent. So I moved out and they lost their cash cow. Hey Reddit. My parents tried blackmailing me into free childcare for my sister's kid. When I refused, they threatened to triple my rent. So I moved out, and now they're scrambling to cover the mortgage on their rental property. Here's how it went down. I'm Jake, 28 male, and I've been living in a condo my parents own for the past 4 years. It's a decent 2-bedroom place in a good neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but solid. They bought it as an investment property back in 2015, and when I graduated college and landed my first real job, they offered to rent it to me at a discount. The deal was simple, $800 a month plus utilities. Market rate for that place was easily $1,800, so it seemed like a great arrangement. I was saving money while they collected reliable rent from someone who wouldn't trash the place or skip payments. My parents, Richard and Patricia, aren't bad people. Or at least, they weren't until my younger sister Bailey had her first kid. They've always had this weird dynamic where Bailey could do no wrong while I was expected to just handle my business and not cause problems. Growing up, Bailey got away with everything. Failed a class? Not her fault. The teacher was unfair. Wrecked Mom's car? The other driver shouldn't have been in that lane. Got caught sneaking out? Well, she was just being a teenager and exploring her independence. Meanwhile, I got grounded for 2 weeks when I came home past curfew by 15 minutes because I stopped to help someone with a flat tire. The double standard was so obvious it became a running joke with my friends. They'd ask if I needed permission slips signed by my parents for basic adult activities, because that's how controlling they were with me. But Bailey? She could do whatever she wanted. When Bailey was 16, she crashed Mom's car into a mailbox while texting. My parents' response was to buy her a newer, safer car, because clearly the old one wasn't protecting her properly. When I was 16 and accidentally backed into a trash can in our driveway, I had to pay for the dent repair out of my summer job money. Bailey's 5 years younger than me, and she's always had this talent for making her problems everyone else's responsibility. When she dropped out of college after 1 semester because she didn't vibe with the academic environment, my parents paid off her student loans without question. When I needed help with textbooks my senior year, because financial aid didn't cover everything, Dad gave me a 30-minute lecture about financial responsibility and suggested I get a part-time job, or use the library copies. I did get that part-time job, by the way. Worked 20 hours a week at a campus bookstore while taking 18 credit hours. Bailey spent that same year working part-time at a clothing store, quitting after 3 months because her manager was micromanaging her by expecting her to show up on time. The favoritism was so obvious that even my grandparents noticed. My grandfather once told me at Thanksgiving that he respected how I'd made my own way without constantly asking for handouts. That was his polite way of saying Bailey was spoiled, and everyone knew it. My grandmother would slip me money when my parents weren't looking, whispering that I deserved it for being so responsible. My aunt, mom's sister, used to make comments about the different treatment too. She'd say things like, "It's interesting how Bailey always seems to need help while Jake manages just fine on his own." Mom would get defensive and change the subject, but everyone could see it. Fast forward to last year. Bailey got pregnant at 26 with her boyfriend Danny. They'd been together maybe 8 months, and neither of them had stable jobs. Danny worked construction when he felt like it, and Bailey bounced between retail positions, usually quitting after a few months because the manager was toxic, or the hours didn't work for her schedule, or her coworkers were creating drama. I'd met Danny a handful of times at family gatherings. Nice enough guy, but not exactly ambitious. He talked a lot about starting his own contracting business someday, but never seemed to take any actual steps toward making it happen. Mostly, he just complained about his current boss and how he wasn't being appreciated. When Bailey announced the pregnancy at a family dinner, my parents went into full grandparent mode. Mom actually cried tears of joy and immediately started planning a baby shower. Dad talked about how exciting it was to become a grandfather and started looking at baby furniture online that same night. Nobody asked the obvious questions like whether Bailey and Danny were financially ready or had discussed important things like parenting responsibilities and long-term plans. Those concerns were apparently less important than celebrating the upcoming arrival. They helped her move into a bigger apartment, bought all the baby furniture, paid for maternity clothes, and basically funded her entire pregnancy. Bailey and Danny's contribution was showing up and accepting everything. Meanwhile, I was still paying rent and covering my own expenses like an actual adult. I remember one dinner where Mom was showing me pictures of the nursery they'd set up for Bailey. Custom curtains, matching furniture set, one of those fancy cribs that converts into a toddler bed. The whole setup probably cost $3,000 easily. When I mentioned that seemed expensive, Mom said they wanted their first grandchild to have everything perfect. The baby, a girl named Sophie, was born in March. Cute kid, I'll admit that. She had Bailey's eyes and this tiny nose that made everyone go soft. But from day one, Bailey acted like parenthood was some temporary inconvenience that everyone else needed to help her manage. She'd call Mom at 2 a.m. because Sophie wouldn't stop crying, expecting her to drive over and fix it. Never mind that Mom had work in the morning, or that Bailey was the actual parent who needed to figure this out. She'd drop the baby off at my parents' house for just an hour and come back 5 hours later, always with some excuse about traffic or running into a friend or needing to handle something that mysteriously took way longer than planned. She treated free babysitting like a subscription service she'd paid for. My parents were on call 24/7, and they accepted it without complaint. Actually, they seemed to enjoy being so needed, which I found bizarre. They'd cancel their own plans to accommodate Bailey's last-minute requests, never once suggesting she needed to plan ahead or arrange actual childcare. I kept my distance from the whole situation. Visited for holidays, saw the baby occasionally, but I wasn't about to get sucked into Bailey's chaos. I had my own life, a good job as a project coordinator for a commercial construction firm, a solid group of friends, and enough free time to actually enjoy my 20s. My job was demanding but rewarding. I coordinated projects for new commercial buildings, which meant managing schedules, dealing with contractors, handling permit issues, and basically making sure everything happened on time and on budget. It required constant communication, attention to detail, and the ability to put out fires quickly when problems arose. I worked from home Tuesdays and Thursdays, which was great for my productivity. No commute meant more time to focus, and I could knock out reports and emails without office distractions. Those were my most productive days, usually involving back-to-back calls with contractors, city inspectors, and clients. Then came the conversation that changed everything. It was a Sunday in July, about 4 months after Sophie was born. My parents invited me over for dinner, which wasn't unusual. We did family dinners maybe twice a month, and it was generally fine as long as Bailey wasn't there complaining about something. This particular Sunday, Bailey was there with Sophie. The baby was fussy, crying every 20 minutes or so, and Bailey looked exhausted. Not the normal new parent tired, but the kind of tired that comes from expecting everyone else to do the hard parts for you, while you handle the Instagram-worthy moments. I'd brought a bottle of wine and some bread from this bakery Mom liked. Standard dinner contribution. The house smelled like roast chicken, and Dad was in the backyard messing with his grill, even though we weren't grilling anything. Just his Sunday routine. We got through dinner with minimal drama. Sophie cried a few times. Bailey handed her to Mom immediately each time, And Dad made jokes about how demanding babies were while doing absolutely nothing to help standard family dynamic that I'd seen play out dozens of times now. Mom had made her usual Sunday spread: roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, and rolls. Everything was good, though conversation was strained. Bailey kept checking her phone and looking annoyed that she had to be there. Danny hadn't come because he was working on a project, which probably meant watching sports at home. After dinner, Dad asked me to step into his office. That's never a good sign. The office was really just a spare bedroom with a desk and some file cabinets, but Dad liked to use it for serious conversations because it made him feel important. It's where he'd told me my childhood dog had died, where we discussed my college choices, and where he'd once lectured me for an hour about responsibility after I forgot to take out the trash Mom and Bailey joined us, which made my stomach drop. Family meetings in Dad's office meant someone wanted something, and that someone was usually Bailey. The room was cramped with all four of us. Dad sat behind his desk like he was conducting a board meeting. Mom perched on the arm of the old armchair in the corner. Bailey leaned against the doorframe, still holding her phone. I stayed standing, instinctively knowing I wouldn't want to be sitting for whatever was coming. Dad started with small talk about work and how the condo was treating me, asked if I'd had any maintenance issues, if the neighbors were okay. General landlord stuff I could tell he was building up to something, so I just waited him out. Mom chimed in asking about my job, if I was still enjoying the project coordinator position, whether I was thinking about advancing to project manager. All normal questions that felt abnormal given the formal setting. Finally, after about 10 minutes of circling, Dad got to it. Your mother and I have been talking, and we think it's time to adjust your rent situation. My first thought was that they were raising it to market rate, which would have been annoying but fair. The discounted rent was technically a favor, and I'd always known it could end eventually. I'd actually been preparing for this possibility, setting aside extra money each month just in case. But what Dad said next was so much worse. Bailey's really struggling with childcare costs, he began, and I already knew where this was going. My entire body tensed. She's found a part-time job at a boutique that could turn into something great, but she needs reliable help with Sophie during the day. The job is Tuesday through Thursday, midday shifts. I looked at Bailey, who was studying her fingernails like they were the most fascinating thing in the room. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Mom jumped in with her practiced, reasonable voice. We thought since you work from home 2 days a week, you could watch Sophie on those days, just Tuesdays and Thursdays, during business hours. Bailey would drop her off in the morning around 8:30 and pick her up by 6. It would be perfect. Let me be clear about my work situation. I'm a project coordinator for commercial construction projects. Yes, I work from home Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I'm not sitting around watching daytime television and browsing social media. I'm on calls with contractors, managing schedules, coordinating with city inspectors, dealing with permit issues, reviewing plans, and basically doing the same demanding job I do in the office. Those work-from-home days typically involved 4 to 6 hours of video calls and conference calls. I'd be on the phone with an electrical contractor, discussing code requirements, then immediately jump to a call with a city inspector about permit delays, then another call with the client about budget concerns. It was intense, focused work that required my full attention. I work from home, I said slowly. That's not the same as being home available to watch a baby. Dad waved his hand dismissively, like I was being dramatic. You're on your computer. You can keep an eye on the baby while you work. People do it all the time now. It's the new normal. No, they don't. Not if they want to keep their jobs and maintain any professional credibility. I'm in meetings 4 hours a day minimum, I explained, trying to stay calm. Video calls and conference calls with contractors, inspectors, clients. I can't have a baby crying in the background while I'm talking to city officials or discussing project budgets. It's not professional, and my boss would never allow it. Bailey finally spoke up, her voice taking on that whiny quality she used when she wanted sympathy. Sophie's a really easy baby, though. She mostly just naps during the day. You probably wouldn't even notice her there. That was a blatant lie, and everyone in the room knew it. I'd seen Sophie in action at family dinners. That kid had lungs like a fire alarm and used them frequently. She'd cry for 20 minutes straight over nothing, and Bailey would just hand her off to whoever was closest instead of actually soothing her. Just last week at Sunday dinner, Sophie had cried through the entire meal. Bailey had walked around with her, bouncing and shushing, while the rest of us tried to talk over the noise. Mom had taken her for a while. Even Dad had held her briefly before handing her back when she spit up on his shirt. I'm sorry, but no, I said firmly, looking at each of them. I can't watch Sophie while I'm working. It's not possible with my job responsibilities. The room went quiet. My parents exchanged one of those looks that married couples have perfected over decades. The kind that communicates entire conversations without words. I could practically see them silently agreeing to move to the next phase of whatever plan they'd rehearsed. Dad cleared his throat in that official way he did when he was about to lay down the law. Well, here's the thing, son. We've been charging you significantly below market rate for 4 years now. That's been our gift to help you get established after college, to give you a foundation to build on. I didn't like where this was going. My hands clenched at my sides. We think it's time to bring your rent up to fair market value, he continued, his voice taking on that business tone he used when he wanted to sound authoritative. That condo could easily rent for $2,200 a month now with the market the way it is. That's what we're going to need going forward. The number hit me like a physical blow. $2,200 was nearly triple what I was currently paying. It would take my rent from a comfortable $800 to nearly 40% of my take-home pay. That was apartment in a major city pricing for a dated condo in a decent but not exceptional neighborhood. Mom added in her fake sympathetic voice, the one she used when she was pretending to care about your concerns while manipulating you. Of course, if you're helping with Sophie twice a week, we'd be happy to keep your rent at the current rate. Think of it as an exchange of services. You get affordable housing, and Bailey gets reliable childcare. Everyone benefits from the arrangement. There it was. The ultimatum wrapped in family obligation and financial manipulation, tied up with a bow of everyone benefits. I looked at each of them carefully. Dad sitting behind his desk, trying to appear authoritative and businesslike. Mom with her practiced sympathetic expression that didn't reach her eyes, Bailey still studying her nails, probably to avoid looking guilty about participating in this ambush they'd clearly planned together. The calculation in my head was instant. 16 hours a week of childcare times roughly 4 weeks a month equals 64 hours monthly. Professional childcare in our area ran about $15 to $20 per hour, so they were asking me to provide a service worth $960 to $1,280 monthly, while claiming I was getting a deal by saving $1,400 in rent. Except I was already getting that rent discount. They were threatening to take away an existing benefit unless I agreed to work for them. That's not an exchange. That's extortion. Let me get this straight, I said slowly, making sure I understood every part of their scheme. You want me to provide free childcare for 16 hours a week, or you'll triple my rent from $800 to $2,200? We're not asking for free childcare, Bailey protested, finally looking up from her phone. We're offering you a discount on rent in exchange for helping family. That's fair, which I'm already getting. You're threatening to take away my current discount unless I agree to work for you. Dad shook his head, his expression hardening. That's not how we're framing this situation. We're simply adjusting to current market rates and offering an alternative arrangement that benefits everyone involved. This is a business decision. Benefits everyone except me, I pointed out. I'd be risking my actual paying job by trying to watch a baby during work hours. You're being dramatic, Bailey said, rolling her eyes. It's not that big a deal. Plenty of people work from home with kids. Oh, plenty of people who chose to have kids and arrange their careers accordingly. I didn't choose this, and my career isn't set up for it. Mom leaned forward, her voice taking on that pleading tone. Jake, honey, you'd be saving $1,400 a month. That's significant money. Think about what you could do with those savings. Right. And in exchange, I'd be providing childcare that would normally cost what? $15 an hour minimum? So 16 hours a week at $15 is $240 weekly, or roughly $960 a month? Plus, I'd be putting my actual paying job at risk by trying to watch a baby during work hours when I need to be professional and focused. The math wasn't even close to fair, and they knew it. The silence that followed my calculation was telling. Bailey jumped in, her voice rising. You're making this a bigger deal than it is Sophie's family. Family helps family. That's what people do. Family doesn't threaten to triple someone's rent to force them into free labor, I shot back. Free labor? Bailey's voice went up an octave, taking on that indignant tone she used when called out. I'm offering to let you be part of your niece's life, to build a relationship with her. That's a gift, not labor. By leaving her in my apartment twice a week while I'm trying to work. That's not bonding time, Bailey. That's you needing a free babysitter and manipulating the situation to get one. Dad stood up, trying to regain control of the conversation. Son, I think you're being unreasonable here. This is a good opportunity for everyone involved. Bailey gets help she desperately needs. You maintain affordable rent in a great neighborhood, and Sophie gets to spend quality time with her uncle. It's a win all around. What about what I need? I asked, hearing my voice rise despite my attempt to stay calm. I need to do my job without distractions. I need to maintain my professional reputation. I need to not have my housing held hostage over childcare demands that have nothing to do with me. Nobody's holding anything hostage, Mom said, her voice getting tight and defensive. We're having a family discussion about a mutually beneficial arrangement. You're twisting this into something it's not. Then discuss it without financial threats. Tell Bailey to figure out actual childcare like every other working parent in America. Bailey's eyes filled with tears. Her go-to move when things weren't going her way. I'd seen this performance 1,000 times growing up. I can't afford regular daycare. Do you know how expensive it is? I'm trying to get back to work, trying to be responsible and contribute, and my own brother won't even help me when I need it most. You can afford it if you and Danny both work full-time, instead of treating employment as optional. Danny's looking for work, she protested. Danny's been looking for work since before Sophie was born. Meanwhile, you're expecting me to subsidize your childcare situation by sacrificing my work from home time and paying market rate rent if I refuse. You're being selfish, Bailey said flatly, dropping the tears as quickly as she'd summoned them. I'm being realistic. I have a career that I've worked hard for. I can't jeopardize it because you and Danny refuse to plan ahead or take responsibility for your own situation. Dad stood up, signaling the conversation was over in his mind. We'll give you a week to think about it and consider what's really important. But understand that starting August 1st, your rent will be $2,200 monthly unless you agree to help your sister. This is happening. I stood up too, meeting his eyes directly. Don't bother giving me a week. My answer is no. Send me the lease paperwork for the new rate and I'll figure out my housing situation. Mom looked genuinely shocked, like she couldn't believe I was actually refusing. You'd rather pay triple the rent than help with your niece twice a week? I'd rather maintain my professional boundaries and not be financially manipulated by my own family. Yes, this is what family does, Bailey said through fresh tears. They help each other when times are tough. You're right. Family helps family. They don't extort them with rent threats. I walked out of Dad's office, my heart pounding, grabbed my keys from the kitchen counter where I'd left them, and headed for the door. Behind me, I could hear Bailey crying harder, and Mom saying something about me being unreasonable and ungrateful. The drive home was surreal. My own parents had just threatened to triple my rent unless I became Bailey's unpaid nanny. The favoritism I'd tolerated my whole life had escalated into actual financial coercion. They weren't even trying to hide it anymore. That night, I sat in my living room, the living room I'd called home for 4 years, and started running numbers. At $2,200 a month, I couldn't afford the condo. Not if I wanted to maintain any quality of life or continue saving for my future. I'd be paying nearly 40% of my take-home income just on rent, but finding a new place would mean deposits, moving costs, and the hassle of relocating. Plus, I'd lose the below-market rate I'd been enjoying for 4 years. I'd gotten comfortable here, built a life in this neighborhood. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. They'd crafted this whole situation to trap me. Either accept becoming Bailey's free childcare and keep affordable rent, or refuse and get priced out of the condo I'd been living in and maintaining and paying for reliably for years. It was manipulation disguised as family obligation, and they'd clearly planned it together. The dinner invitation, the setup with Bailey and Sophie being there, the family meeting in Dad's office, the ultimatum, all coordinated to maximize pressure on me to agree. I texted my best friend Kevin. Emergency. Need to talk ASAP. Kevin showed up 20 minutes later with sandwiches from our favorite deli and listened while I explained the whole situation. When I finished, he just stared at me with his mouth slightly open. Dude, that's seriously messed up, right? Like, really messed up. Your parents are basically landlords threatening to price you out of your home unless you provide free childcare? That's not family. That's a protection racket. 16 hours a week, while working full-time, with a 4-month-old baby. That's insane. You can't watch a baby while you're on work calls with city inspectors and contractors. What if she's screaming during an important client meeting? You'd look completely unprofessional. They don't care about that. They just want Bailey to have free childcare, and they're using my housing situation to force it. Kevin thought for a minute, chewing his sandwich. What are you going to do? I think I'm moving out. Seriously? You love that place. What choice do I have? Either I let them manipulate me into this arrangement, or I find somewhere else to live. And if I give in now, they'll just keep pushing. Next, it'll be 3 days a week, then full-time, then weekends. That's going to cost you, though. Moving, deposits, higher rent somewhere else. Less than losing my job because I can't focus during important meetings. And definitely less than letting my family think they can control me with rent threats whenever they want something. Kevin nodded slowly. Respect. That takes serious guts to walk away from below market rent. It's not really below market if it comes with strings attached that could cost me my career. Over the next 3 days, I apartment hunted. Like it was my full-time job, I scoured listings online, scheduled viewings during my lunch breaks, and calculated exactly what I could actually afford without destroying my savings or quality of life. Most places in my current area were expensive, $1,600 to $1,900 for a one-bedroom that wasn't even as nice as my current place. The market had gotten crazy in the past few years, but I found a decent apartment about 20 minutes further from work for $1,400 a month. Not as nice as the condo, but clean, safe, recently renovated, and mine without family strings attached. The apartment was in a slightly older building but well-maintained. The unit had been updated with new appliances and fresh paint. It was smaller, just one bedroom compared to my current two. But honestly, I didn't need the extra space. I'd been using the second bedroom as a home office, and the new place had enough room in the living area for my desk. The landlord was professional and straightforward. He ran my background check, verified my employment, checked my credit score, and approved my application within 48 hours. We signed the lease on Thursday evening move-in date, August 1st. My parents called twice during this period. I didn't answer either time. They left voicemails that progressively increased in urgency. The first one was Dad asking if I'd thought about their offer and reminding me that August was approaching. The second was Mom saying they needed to finalize the August rent situation and asking me to call them back to discuss terms. Finally, on Friday evening, I called my dad back. Figured I might as well rip the Band-Aid off. "Have you made a decision?" he asked without preamble or greeting. Straight to business. "Yes, I'm moving out. I signed a lease on a new place today." Silence on the other end. Long, heavy silence that stretched for at least 10 seconds. "You're moving out?" "That's what I said. I'll have everything cleared out by July 31st, and you can find new tenants who'll pay your market rate." "Son, don't be rash about this. Let's talk it through rationally. We already talked. You made your position clear, and I'm making mine clear. I'm not interested in being financially coerced into providing childcare." Mom grabbed the phone, and I could hear the panic in her voice. "Jake, please don't do this. We can work something out. Maybe just 1 day a week? Or shorter hours? You offered me one option. Provide free childcare or pay triple rent. I'm choosing option 3. Find my own place without manipulation attached." "But the condo, we thought you loved it there. You've been there for 4 years. "I did love it. Past tense. Turns out living somewhere comes with conditions I'm not willing to accept." "You're being spiteful and immature," she said, her voice hardening. "I'm being independent. There's a difference." Dad took the phone back, his voice taking on that negotiating tone. "Okay, we'll reduce the rent. How about $1,200? That's still a good deal for you, and we're meeting you halfway." "And what happens 6 months from now when Bailey needs more help? You'll just threaten to raise it again?" "No thanks. I'm out." "What about your sister? She's counting on you. She needs family support right now." "Bailey's counting on everyone except herself and Danny. Maybe losing her free childcare option will motivate them to actually plan their finances and act like adults." "That's cold, Jake. That's really cold." "That's reality, Dad. I have to go. I have packing to do." I hung up before he could respond, and immediately felt lighter. The decision was made, and there was no going back now. The next 2 weeks were chaotic but purposeful. I packed up 4 years of accumulated possessions. Books, clothes, kitchen supplies, furniture, all the random stuff you collect without realizing it. I arranged for movers, scheduled utility transfers, updated my address with work and banks, and generally prepared to leave the condo I'd called home since graduation. My parents tried multiple times to change my mind. Dad sent texts about family loyalty and how I was throwing away a good thing over pride. Mom called crying about how I was abandoning Bailey when she needed help most, and how Sophie would grow up without knowing her uncle. Bailey herself sent a long message about how selfish I was being, how I clearly didn't care about family, and how she'd always remember that I chose money over helping her. I ignored all of it. Every message was the same manipulation packaged in different emotional wrapping paper. They wanted me to feel guilty enough to cave, but I was done playing their games. Kevin helped me move on July 30th. We rented a truck, loaded up everything I owned, and transported it to my new apartment in one long, sweaty day. He brought another friend to help with the heavy furniture, and we made it work despite the July heat. The new place was smaller and less convenient, but it was mine. No strings attached, no family drama, no wondering when the next ultimatum would land. Just a straightforward landlord-tenant relationship, where rent was rent and nothing more. On August 1st, I dropped off my keys at my parents' house. Dad answered the door looking exhausted, dark circles under his eyes. "You really did it," he said, staring at the keys in his hand like they were foreign objects. "I really did. Your mother's devastated. She's been crying for days. Mom's upset because her manipulation didn't work. There's a difference. We were trying to help Bailey. She's your sister. By threatening me. That's not help, Dad. That's extortion. Don't be dramatic. We gave you options. You gave me an ultimatum. Be Bailey's free nanny or pay triple rent. Those aren't options. That's coercion." He didn't have an answer for that, just stood there holding my keys. "Good luck renting the place," I said. "I'm sure you'll find someone willing to pay $2,200 for that outdated kitchen and original bathroom fixtures from 1995. I walked away before he could respond, feeling genuinely free for the first time in months. The fallout was predictable and swift. My parents stopped speaking to me beyond occasional texts about how disappointed they were, and how I'd changed. Bailey posted vague social media updates about family betrayal, and finding out who really cares when you need them. One post had a picture of Sophie with a caption about how some people choose money over family. I blocked most of their social media and focused on settling into my new place. But here's what they didn't expect. The condo sat empty for months. August passed with no renters. They'd listed it at $2,200 like they'd threatened, but nobody wanted to pay that much for a dated two-bedroom in that area. The market just wasn't supporting their inflated price. September came and went. Still empty. I heard through my aunt that they were starting to panic about the mortgage payments with no rental income coming in. By October, they dropped the price to $1,900. Still no takers. Turns out people shopping in that price range expected modern finishes and updated appliances, not original 1995 fixtures, and Formica countertops. November hit, and they were getting desperate. Dad called me asking if I knew anyone looking for a rental. His voice was strained, trying to sound casual but clearly stressed. I told him I'd ask around and never mentioned it to anyone. December came, and I heard through my aunt that they'd dropped the price again. $1,600 now, significantly less than their market rate threat, and barely double what I'd been paying. They finally got renters in January, a full 8 months after I moved out. The new tenants were a young couple paying $1,550, less than the $1,800 market rate they'd insisted the place was worth, and almost double what I'd been paying faithfully for 4 years. But here's the math that really hurt them. I'd been paying $800 monthly for 4 years straight. That's $38,400 in reliable on-time rent that covered their mortgage and some maintenance expenses. I'd never been late, never caused problems, never called them at midnight about minor issues. By trying to squeeze an extra $1,400 out of me through manipulation, they'd lost 8 months of rent entirely, roughly $12,800 in missed mortgage payments that came straight out of their own pockets. Then they'd had to settle for $1,550 from strangers instead of $800 from their son, who actually took care of the place and fixed minor issues himself. The reality was simple. They'd gotten greedy, tried to leverage my housing for free childcare, and shot themselves squarely in the foot. My aunt visited me in February and filled me in on everything I'd missed. She'd always been the reasonable one in the family, the person who saw through the favoritism and wasn't afraid to quietly acknowledge it. "Your parents are stressed," she told me over coffee at my new place. "The rental situation has been rough on them financially. They created that situation themselves. I know I told your mother as much, though she didn't want to hear it." She explained that Bailey had eventually found subsidized daycare through some county program. After applying and getting on a waiting list, Bailey complained constantly about the hours and quality, saying the facility wasn't as nice as private daycares, and the staff wasn't as attentive as she wanted. Danny had finally gotten a full-time warehouse job after Bailey's benefits ran out, and she couldn't afford to be the only one working part-time. Turns out necessity is a powerful motivator. My parents, meanwhile, were stressed about the rental property. The new tenants were fine people but demanding as tenants, calling about every minor maintenance issue and expecting immediate responses. After years of me handling small repairs myself and only calling for major problems, they'd forgotten what actual landlording involved. "Your mom mentioned she'd be willing to talk if you called," my aunt said carefully. "Talk about what?" "How they tried to manipulate me into free childcare by threatening to triple my rent." She says it wasn't manipulation. She says it was a family solution that would have helped everyone. "What would you call threatening to triple someone's rent unless they agree to work for free?" My aunt sighed. "I'm not defending them. I'm just telling you what she said. Noted. But I'm not interested in reconciling with people who think financial threats are acceptable family communication. Fair enough. I can't blame you. I stayed in my new apartment through the spring. It wasn't as nice as the condo in some ways. Smaller, a bit further from work, older building. Life was objectively better without my family's interference. In May, I got an unexpected text from Bailey. Can we talk? I didn't respond immediately. Whatever she wanted, I wasn't interested in walking back into their dysfunction or getting sucked into new drama. She texted again an hour later. I know you're mad. I get it. But I need to talk to you about something important. Please. Against my better judgment and Kevin's advice, I agreed to meet at a neutral coffee shop. Figured it was better than her showing up at my apartment or workplace. Bailey showed up 15 minutes late, looking tired but more together than the last time I'd seen her. Sophie was with Danny's mom for the afternoon, she explained. Thanks for meeting me, she started, fidgeting with her coffee cup. What do you want, Bailey? I wanted to apologize for the whole rent thing last summer. For everything. That caught me completely off guard. Bailey didn't do apologies. She did excuses, justifications, and blame shifting, but not actual apologies. You're apologizing? Yeah. I've been thinking about it a lot over the past few months, and what we did was wrong. Mom and Dad shouldn't have threatened you like that, and I shouldn't have gone along with it, or expected you to sacrifice your job for my childcare needs. What changed? She laughed bitterly. Reality. Turns out actually being responsible for your own kid is hard and expensive, and nobody's going to hand you solutions just because you want them or think you deserve help. So you figured that out after I left. Pretty much Danny and I are both working full-time now. Sophie's in daycare 5 days a week and we're making it work. It's not easy, and we're broke most of the time, but it's working. We're actually functioning like adults for once. Good for you, seriously. I mean it, though. I was wrong to expect you to sacrifice your job and life to make mine easier. That wasn't fair, and it wasn't right. You worked hard to build your career, and I had no business asking you to risk it. No, you didn't. I told Mom and Dad they were wrong, too. They don't want to hear it, but I said it anyway. Multiple times. That was probably the most mature thing Bailey had ever said to me. I studied her face carefully, looking for signs of manipulation or hidden agenda, but she seemed genuinely sincere. How'd they take that? Not well. They're still convinced you overreacted, and they were just trying to help me. They don't see how threatening to triple your rent was manipulative. They threatened to triple my rent, Bailey, from $800 to $2,200, unless I provided 16 hours of free childcare weekly. I know, I was there. I'm saying they're wrong, not that they've admitted it or learned anything from it. We sat in silence for a moment, both sipping our coffee. Look, Bailey continued, I'm not asking you to forgive them or come back to family dinners or pretend everything's fine. I just wanted you to know that I get it now. What they did was manipulative, and I was part of it. I used my situation to guilt you, and that was wrong. Okay, and I'm sorry, I'm genuinely sorry for my role in all of it. I studied her face again. She seemed genuine, which was unusual and slightly unsettling. I appreciate the apology, I said finally. I'm glad you and Danny are figuring things out and taking responsibility. We're trying. It's not perfect, but we're trying. Danny's actually being a real partner now, instead of just talking about future plans that never happen. That's all anyone can do, show up and try. She smiled, and for the first time in years, it felt authentic instead of manipulative. We talked for another 20 minutes about safe topics. Sophie's development, Danny's warehouse job, and how he was actually enjoying having structure. My promotion at work. It felt almost normal, like siblings catching up instead of navigating family warfare. As we were leaving, Bailey said, If you ever want to see Sophie, you're welcome to. No pressure, no strings, no expectations. Just, she's your niece, and she's actually pretty cool when she's not screaming or needing something. Maybe sometime. Cool, that's all I wanted to say. I haven't reconciled with my parents. They still send occasional texts suggesting I overreacted and should move past this for the sake of family. They've never actually apologized for the ultimatum or acknowledged that threatening to triple my rent was wrong. Bailey and I text sometimes now. Nothing heavy or frequent, just occasional updates and photos of Sophie doing cute baby things. It's not the close sibling relationship some people have, but it's something, more importantly, it's honest and doesn't come with hidden agendas. My parents lost their reliable tenant, their son's trust, and 8 months of mortgage payments because they got greedy and tried to turn family obligation into forced labor. Was it worth losing their relationship with me to try getting Bailey free childcare? They'd have to answer that themselves. But from where I'm sitting, in my slightly smaller apartment with my slightly higher rent and my significantly lower stress levels, paying my own way without manipulation or ultimatums, best decision I ever made. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks. Story 5. My stepkids said they only respect their real dad, mocked my late wife, and told my kids their father didn't matter. So I cut off every privilege I paid for, packed their stuff, and told their dad to come get them. No one dared talk back. Hey Reddit, I've been reading stories on here for years, but never thought I'd share one of my own. Let's just say blending families isn't as simple as people make it sound. I learned a lot about respect, boundaries, and what it really means to be a parent when things got messy. Really messy. So here's my story. I, Mark, 42 male, a dad to two amazing kids, Maya, 12 female, and Andrew, 9 male. Their mom, Sarah, passed away 4 years ago. Cancer. The kind that doesn't give you time to make sense of it. Losing her nearly broke me. But when you've got two kids who still need breakfast every morning, you don't get the luxury of falling apart for long. For a long time, it was just the three of us. I learned how to braid hair, pack lunches that didn't look like survival rations, and fake smiles when my daughter missed her mom too much to sleep. I didn't think I'd ever want another relationship, but then Tiffany came along. Tiffany was like a warm spring day after years of winter. She was kind, smart, and she got it. She was divorced, raising two kids of her own. Jason was 16, Chloe was 14. Both polite, both well-mannered when I met them. When we decided to move in together, I honestly thought we were going to nail this whole blended family thing. Maya and Andrew were thrilled. Maya talked nonstop about having a big sister to share secrets with, and Andrew couldn't wait to play video games with Jason. The morning we moved in, my son was bouncing around the living room yelling, "We finally have a full house!" He didn't mean it like the TV show. He meant it like his heart finally felt full again. The first week was picture perfect. Jason and Chloe were quiet but polite. They helped carry boxes, said thank you, and didn't complain once. I thought, this is it. This is what a second chance looks like. The first Friday night we had everyone together for dinner, I decided to cook. Nothing fancy, steak, potatoes, and corn on the cob. It smelled amazing, and even Tiffany said the kitchen felt like home. We all sat down, plates steaming, and for a few minutes, it was exactly how I'd imagined it. Laughter, small talk, Andrew telling an over-the-top story about a frog he found at school. Then Jason, between bites, leaned back in his chair and said, "My dad makes better steak. He seasons it right." The table went quiet. Tiffany shot him a glare, but he just kept chewing like nothing happened. I didn't raise my voice. I put my fork down and looked straight at him. "Good for your dad," I said calmly. "Maybe one day he can come teach me, but until then, this is what's on the table. You're welcome to eat it, or not." The kid blinked, like he wasn't expecting pushback. Chloe's fork froze midair. Andrew looked between us nervously. I smiled, not angry, just steady. "Eat up, son," I added. "It's gonna get cold." Tiffany tried to lighten the mood after that, talking about weekend plans. But I could tell Jason didn't like that I hadn't backed down. I didn't need him to like me, though. I needed him to respect me. After dinner, Maya and Chloe went upstairs to compare playlists, and Andrew started unpacking a small box he'd brought from his old room. It was labeled Mom. Inside were photos, a couple of letters, and a snow globe she'd given him before she got too sick to leave bed. He took out a framed photo of her and asked, "Dad, can I hang this up?" "Of course," I said. "She'd like that." He picked a spot on the hallway wall, right by the stairs, where everyone could see it. The photo was simple. Sarah sitting on the grass, laughing. Her hair was short from chemo, but her smile still outshined the sun. While Andrew was straightening the frame, Jason walked by with his phone in his hand and muttered, "Why keep old pictures up? Kinda weird." I stopped what I was doing and turned toward him. My voice was even, but it dropped an octave. "Because she mattered," I said. "And in this house, we respect people who mattered." He didn't say anything after that, just stared for a second, then walked off. Andrew went quiet too. I crouched down next to him and said, "Hey, you did good hanging it there. She'd be proud of you." He nodded and hugged me, the kind of quick, tight hug that hits harder than any words. I should have felt peace. For the first time in years, the house was full of life again. But there was this tiny crack somewhere in the foundation. Something small, almost invisible, but I could feel it. Still, I told myself it was just new family tension. We'd get past it. We had to. I didn't know then that some lessons come the hard way. I didn't know that respect, once you let it slide, never really comes back the same. 6 months after we all moved in together, the tone of the house changed. It wasn't one big fight or dramatic moment. It was small things piling up, like dust you don't notice until it's everywhere. Jason and Chloe, once polite and quiet, started acting like every rule was up for negotiation. If I told Jason to take the trash out, he'd look right at me and say, "I'll wait for Mom." If I asked Chloe to put her laundry in the basket, she'd nod and then not do it. But if Tiffany asked, suddenly everything got done. At first, I thought maybe I was imagining it. Blended families take time, right? But one afternoon, I came home from work and overheard something that stopped me cold. The kids were in the living room. Jason and Chloe were sitting on the couch, phones in hand, and Maya and Andrew were on the floor, building with Legos. Jason leaned forward and said, "You guys know you don't have to listen to him, right?" Chloe giggled. "Yeah, he's so strict. Our dad lets us stay up late and eat whatever we want." Andrew looked unsure. "But Dad said we have to—" Jason cut him off. "Your dad just likes bossing people around. You don't have to do everything he says." I stood there for a second behind the wall and felt my blood go cold. Then I stepped into the room. "Jason," I said evenly. "Say that again." He froze. Chloe's face went pale. Maya and Andrew turned around fast. "You heard me," I continued. "Go on. You were giving my kids parenting advice? Let's hear it." He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. "Let me make something real clear," I said, my voice steady but hard. "You two don't ever tell my kids they don't have to listen to me. You're not their parents, and you're not mine. This house has one set of rules, and everyone follows them. Understand?" Chloe nodded fast. Jason mumbled something like, "Yeah, fine." "Good," I said. "Then knock it off. Now." I didn't yell. I didn't need to. The way Jason's jaw tightened told me he hated that I called him out. That night, I told Tiffany what happened. She sighed and rubbed her temples like I'd told her the Wi-Fi was down. "They're just adjusting, Mark," she said. "It's a lot of change. You can't expect them to respect you overnight." 6 months is overnight? I asked. "They'll come around," she said softly. "Just give it time." I wanted to believe her, but something in my gut said she was wrong. The following weeks were full of little power plays. Jason would wait until Tiffany got home before doing anything I asked. Chloe would conveniently forget what I told her. Maya started testing me too, saying things like, "But Jason said it's fine if I skip chores." I'd just look at her and say, "Jason doesn't make the rules here, sweetheart." I do. Then came the family trip. Tiffany had planned a weekend at the lake, a chance for all of us to bond. I loaded the car, packed snacks, made sure everyone had their swimsuits. Jason climbed into the passenger seat, earbuds already in, hood up. The first day went okay. The younger kids swam, Tiffany sunbathed, and Jason mostly sulked. But that evening, when we were grilling by the cabin, Jason started in again. "Mom, can we go home?" "This is boring," he said loudly. "Dad would have taken us somewhere fun. He doesn't make us do lame family stuff." The way he said "dad" made it clear who he meant and who he didn't. I kept flipping the burgers, pretending not to hear at first. But when Maya started looking at me like I'd done something wrong, I turned around. "Jason," I said, "you're welcome to sit in the car if family time is too hard for you. But while you're out here, you're going to be respectful. You got that?" He gave a fake laugh. "Whatever, man. You can't tell me what to do. You're not my dad." Tiffany jumped in before I could respond. "Jason, enough!" He threw his hands up. "What? I'm just saying—" "I said enough," she snapped. The rest of dinner was silent, except for the sound of bugs and the crackle of the fire. When we packed up to go home the next day, Jason didn't say a word to me the entire drive. When we pulled into the driveway, I told the kids to grab their bags. Maya and Andrew followed instructions right away. Chloe and Jason went straight upstairs like guests leaving a bad hotel. Tiffany and I stood in the kitchen afterward. She looked tired. I looked down. "Maybe this trip wasn't such a great idea," she said quietly. "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe it showed us what's actually going on." She didn't answer. That night, after everyone went to bed, I stood in the hallway looking at that framed photo of Sarah on the wall. It caught a little bit of moonlight, and I thought about the kind of home she wanted for our kids. One built on love, yes, but also on respect. I wasn't sure which one we still had. Still, I kept telling myself it would get better, that if I stayed calm, fair, and firm, they'd see I wasn't the enemy. But deep down, a seed had been planted. Not anger, just a quiet kind of frustration that grows roots when no one's looking. And once it starts, it doesn't stop. The next couple of months felt like living with strangers who happened to share your address. Jason and Chloe didn't just ignore me. They acted like I wasn't even there. If I walked into a room, they'd lower their voices or leave. If I spoke, They'd glance at each other like I'd interrupted something private. At first, I tried to keep the peace. I'd remind them about chores, ask how school was going, keep my tone even. But their responses were either silence or one-word answers said without looking up from their phones. Then it got worse. They'd deliberately wait until Tiffany got home to start conversations. Or they'd walk right past me if I told them something needed doing. Once, I asked Jason to mow the lawn before the weekend. He shrugged and said, "I'll do it when Mom tells me." That one sentence told me everything. The house had split into sides, mine and theirs. One Saturday morning, I was outside cleaning the garage when I saw our neighbor, Mrs. Lawson, walking her dog. She was one of those older ladies who knew everyone on the block, always cheerful, always chatty. But that morning, she looked nervous. "Hey, Mark," she said, tugging on her dog's leash. "Do you have a minute?" "Sure," I said, wiping my hands on a rag. She hesitated. I just wanted to check in. Everything all right at home?" That question stopped me cold. "Yeah," I said slowly. "Why?" She glanced toward the house, then back at me. "It's probably nothing. Well, I ran into your stepkids the other day, Jason and Chloe. They were talking to my grandson out front, and, they said a few things that worried me." "What kind of things?" She sighed. "They said you only let them eat at certain times, that you're really strict, and that you don't let them relax or have fun. Jason said you treat them like soldiers or something." I felt the heat rush to my face, not embarrassment, but anger. The kind that starts in your gut and spreads like fire. "Mrs. Lawson," I said, keeping my voice measured, "I appreciate you telling me, but that's complete nonsense." "I figured as much," she said quickly. "You've always seemed like a good dad. I just didn't want rumors going around." "Yeah," I said tightly. "Neither do I." She walked off, and I stood there for a minute, gripping that rag so hard it nearly tore. My stepkids were out there telling people I mistreated them, ruining my name in a neighborhood I'd worked years to build trust in. That wasn't going to slide. I marched inside. Jason and Chloe were in the living room watching TV, feet up on the coffee table like they owned the place. "Turn it off," I said. They ignored me. I stepped forward, hit the power button myself, and tossed the remote on the couch. "We're talking. Now." Jason rolled his eyes. "What now?" "Mrs. Lawson came by today," I said, staring him down. "She told me you've been telling people I starve you and treat you like prisoners." "Care to explain?" Chloe's eyes darted to Jason. "We didn't—" "Don't lie to me," I snapped. "I know exactly what you said. I've done nothing but put food on the table, pay for your phones, your clothes, your sports crap, and this is how you repay me? By spreading garbage about me to the neighbors?" Jason leaned back, smirking. "Maybe if you weren't such a control freak, people wouldn't believe it." That smirk was a mistake. I stepped closer until we were eye to eye. "Listen carefully," I said quietly. "This is your last warning. If you pull one more stupid stunt like this, you'd better be ready for the consequences. And trust me, you won't like them." He stared at me, but didn't speak. I could see his jaw working, like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the courage. Chloe whispered, "We were just joking." "Jokes end when they damage someone's reputation," I said. "And this one ends now." I turned and walked out before I said something I'd regret. That evening, Tiffany came into the garage where I was fixing a shelf. "I heard you yelled at the kids," she said. "I didn't yell," I said. "I confronted them. They told me you threatened them." I set the drill down and looked her in the eye. "Tiffany, they've been lying to people, telling the neighbors I mistreat them. That's not a misunderstanding. That's character assassination." She frowned. "They're teenagers, Mark. They exaggerate things. You can't take everything they say so seriously." "Exaggerate?" I said, my voice rising. "They told people I starved them. How much more exaggeration do you need before you call it what it is? Disrespect?" She crossed her arms, defensive. "They're still adjusting." "Stop saying that," I said sharply. "It's been almost a year. At some point, they stop adjusting and start choosing how to act. And right now, they're choosing to be disrespectful." Tiffany didn't respond. She just walked out, muttering something under her breath. That night, the silence in the house felt heavier than ever. Maya and Andrew stayed in their rooms. Jason and Chloe laughed quietly behind closed doors, probably feeling like they'd won something. I sat on the couch in the dark, staring at the blank TV screen, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. My own house didn't feel like mine anymore. And for the first time, I started wondering, maybe what this family needed wasn't more understanding. Maybe it needed consequences. That thought stayed with me for days. Quiet, sharp, and growing louder every time I walked past one of their closed doors. I'd catch myself gripping my coffee cup too tight or stopping halfway through a sentence because I knew whatever I said, they'd twist it into something ugly. Then came the day it all fell apart. It was a Thursday afternoon. I got home early from work, expecting the usual chaos. Maya doing homework, Andrew building Lego towers, and Jason glued to his phone. Instead, I walked into silence. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that makes your stomach drop. I found Andrew in his room, sitting on the floor next to a pile of glass and water. His hands were shaking, and his eyes were red. "What happened, buddy?" I asked, crouching down. He pointed at the mess. "Jason, he broke it." His voice cracked. "He threw it." My stomach twisted. "He threw what?" Andrew picked up a small shard of glass from the carpet. I recognized it instantly. The snow globe. The one Sarah had given him before she passed. Inside it had been a tiny cabin and two little figures holding hands in the snow. Andrew had guarded that thing like treasure for years. "Where is he?" I asked. "Downstairs," Andrew whispered. He said it was stupid to cry over it. I stood up slowly, every muscle in my body tightening like a rope about to snap. Jason was on the couch in the living room, controller in hand, eyes glued to the TV, like nothing had happened. "Jason," I said, my voice low. He didn't even look up. "What?" "Turn it off." He sighed like I was ruining his evening and paused the game. "What now?" "You broke Andrew's snow globe." He shrugged. "Yeah, it fell." "It didn't fall," I said. "You threw it." "Maybe I did," he said, smirking. He was being a baby about it. "It's just a toy." I stepped closer. That snow globe was from his mother. You had no right to touch it. He leaned back on the couch, still smirking. "Grow up. You can buy another one. That's what you're good for, right?" For a second, everything went quiet in my head. I could hear the blood in my ears, the ticking of the wall clock, the faint sound of Chloe laughing upstairs. I took a deep breath. "Stand up," I said. "Why?" "Because I said so." He stood up, half laughing. "What, you gonna ground me? You can't even tell me what to do." I looked him dead in the eye. "You're right," I said calmly. "I'm not your dad." He froze. "And you're not my son," I continued. "So pack your things. Get ready to leave." His smirk faltered. "What?" "You heard me. You don't respect me. You don't respect this house. And you sure as hell don't get to destroy something that belonged to my late wife. You can live with your dad, since he's so much cooler." He laughed nervously, glancing toward the stairs. "You're not serious." "I've never been more serious." He looked at me for a long second, maybe waiting for me to yell or lose my temper. But I didn't. I just stood there, calm and solid, like the decision was already carved in stone. "You can't kick me out," he said finally. "I can," I said, "and I will." He scoffed. "Mom won't let you." "Then she can go too, if she thinks this is okay." He blinked, like he was realizing too late that this wasn't a game. He stormed upstairs, muttering under his breath. I didn't follow. I went straight to my home office and sat at my desk. My hands weren't shaking. My head was clear. I opened my laptop and pulled up our family accounts. Phone plan, streaming services, car insurance, mortgage, utilities, every single thing in my name. I started writing a list. Not out of anger, out of logic, out of clarity. Halfway through the list, Tiffany came home. I heard her keys drop in the hallway, then her voice calling, "Mark? What's going on?" "Jason said you threatened him." I didn't look up. "He broke Andrew's snow globe." Her tone softened, like she hadn't heard me right. "What?" "The one Sarah gave him," I said. "Smashed it." Then laughed about it. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Yeah," I said, still typing. "And then he told me I'm not his dad. Mark, he's 16. I stopped typing and turned to face her. "And I'm 42. I've lived long enough to know when I'm being disrespected in my own home." She stared at me, stunned. "What are you doing?" "Making a list," I said. "Everything in this house that's in my name. Everything I pay for. If Jason doesn't think I'm a parent, fine. But that means I'm not responsible for him either." She shook her head slowly. "You can't just—" "I can," I said, cutting her off. "And I will." She didn't say anything else. Just stood there, arms crossed, trying to understand that I wasn't bluffing. When she finally walked away, I sat back in the chair and looked at the list again. It wasn't about revenge. It was about respect, about showing that every action comes with a cost. I folded the paper, placed it neatly on the desk, and turned off the light. "If I'm not their parent," I said quietly to the empty room, "then I'm not responsible for them either." The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. Didn't even bother with coffee at first. Just sat at the kitchen table staring at the list I'd written the night before. The decision had already been made. Now it was time to follow through. At 6 a.m., I started making calls. First, the phone provider. Remove 2 lines, I said. Jason and Chloe. The woman on the other end asked if I was sure. I said yes. Streaming services, passwords changed. Cable, canceled. By 9 a.m., my house was quieter than usual. Jason and Chloe's phones were cut off, and for the first time in months, I felt in control. I'd only shut off their lines. The rest of the house still had service. No need to punish everyone, just the ones who'd earned it. Tiffany didn't notice at first. She was at work, and Jason was still sleeping when I unplugged his game console and set it on the kitchen counter. By noon, the neighborhood grapevine was already buzzing. When I stepped outside to put the trash out, Mrs. Lawson from across the street waved me over. I heard about what happened with Jason, she said carefully. Don't let anyone make you feel bad, Mark. Everyone around here knows those kids have been trouble since day one. I nodded. Appreciate that, Mrs. Lawson. She lowered her voice. You're doing the right thing. My husband and I have seen it. Those kids talk back to you like you're some stranger. I don't know how you've stayed so patient. Trying to set things straight now? I said simply. She gave a sympathetic smile. About time. When I went back inside, Jason was standing in the living room, with his phone in his hand, face twisted in disbelief. Why isn't my phone working? He demanded. Because it's not in my plan anymore, I said flatly. Neither is Chloe's. He laughed once like I'd told a bad joke. You can't do that. I just did. You're insane, he said. Mom's gonna lose it. Maybe, I said, picking up the modem from the counter. But at least she'll have a signal to call your dad. He followed me down the hallway, voice rising. You can't just kick us out because you're mad. I'm not mad, I said calmly. I'm finished. He stormed off, slamming his door hard enough to rattle the frame. Tiffany came home that night just as I was making dinner for Maya and Andrew. The younger two were quiet but relaxed. Andrew humming softly, Maya setting the table. It felt like an actual family meal again. Tiffany dropped her purse on the counter. What did you do? Handled the situation? I said without looking up. Jason said you canceled their phones, Mark. That's not handling things. That's punishing them. It's called consequences, I said. They're kids. I finally turned to face her. They're 16 and 14, not toddlers. They know exactly what they're doing. Her voice cracked with anger. You're being harsh. I set down the spatula and took a step closer. No, I'm being a parent. Something you haven't been doing lately. Her eyes narrowed. Excuse me? You've been enabling them, Tiffany. Every time they cross a line, you make an excuse. Every time they disrespect me, you tell me to give it time. Well, time's up. They've pushed too far, and I'm not tolerating it anymore. Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't stop. You've spoiled them, and you've let them poison this house. I won't let them turn Maya and Andrew into the same kind of entitled kids. If that means this relationship ends, then so be it. She went quiet, staring at me like she didn't recognize the man standing in front of her. Then she whispered, You're serious. Dead serious. And she turned away, muttering, I can't even talk to you right now, and disappeared into the bedroom. I let her go. There was nothing left to say. The next morning, I packed Jason and Chloe's things. Clothes, shoes, their electronics, whatever they had in shared spaces. I folded everything neatly into boxes and set them by the front door. Then I called a locksmith. When the man arrived, I stood outside while he worked, watching the new locks go in one by one. It felt final, like closing a chapter I hadn't realized was poisoning the story. As he handed me the new keys, he said, Rough week, huh? You could say that. He nodded, professional but kind. Sometimes you gotta draw the line. Yeah, I said quietly. Sometimes you do. When Tiffany came home that afternoon, she couldn't get the door open. I opened it for her, standing in the frame. What is this? She asked, panic in her eyes. I changed the locks, I said. Jason and Chloe's things are packed. You can call David or take them yourself. Either way, they're not coming back inside until they learn some respect. Her mouth fell open. Mark, you can't. I can, I said, steady as stone. And I did. David showed up an hour later. He looked uncomfortable the second he stepped out of his car. Tiffany called me, said it's bad. It's bad because your son broke something that belonged to my dead wife and laughed about it, I said. David sighed. He told me, said he didn't mean it. He meant it, I said, and he's gonna live with it. He rubbed the back of his neck. This seems extreme. I met his eyes. If your son told you you weren't his parent, that he didn't have to listen to you, and that your kids didn't matter, what would you do? David looked down. Probably the same thing. Then we're good. Jason and Chloe came out, faces pale, carrying their boxes. They didn't say a word. Jason avoided my eyes, Chloe sniffled quietly. As they got into David's car, Jason hesitated. Is this really it? This is what happens when you burn through every chance you were given, I said. He nodded once and got in. Tiffany didn't speak while they drove away. She just stood there on the porch, arms crossed, tears streaking her cheeks. I handed Tiffany a new key. Jason and Chloe would not get copies. When the taillights disappeared, I went back inside. The house was silent. No yelling, no slammed doors, no tension humming under every word. I sat down at the kitchen table, the same spot where I'd made my list, and let the quiet fill the room. It wasn't peace exactly, but it was something close. Heartbroken, yes, but resolved. The next morning, the house felt like it was holding its breath. No music blaring from Jason's room, no Chloe humming in front of the mirror, just silence, and the faint sound of Maya and Andrew whispering in the kitchen. I poured myself some coffee and sat down. They froze when I entered, like they'd been caught doing something wrong. You two okay? I asked. Maya looked at Andrew first, then said, It's just quiet. Good or bad quiet? I asked. She hesitated. Good. Andrew fidgeted with his spoon. I kinda like it, Dad. Nobody's yelling or calling names anymore. That one hit harder than I expected. I realized how long my kids had been walking on eggshells in their own home. You don't have to feel bad about that, I said. It's okay to breathe again. They both nodded, and for the first time in months, breakfast didn't feel like a minefield. By afternoon, the quiet turned into reflection. Tiffany hadn't said more than a few words since last night. She stayed in the bedroom most of the morning, then finally came out, eyes red from crying. We need to talk, she said. Yeah, I said, setting down my mug. She sat across from me at the table, hands clasped. I don't even know who you are right now, Mark. You've been cold, hard. I know Jason messed up, but throwing them out? They're still kids. And I took a slow breath. They're old enough to know right from wrong. You know that. They're hurt, she said. And so are mine, I said evenly. Do you even realize what they've been through these past months? Jason calling me names. Chloe lying to neighbors. Both of them turning my own kids against me. They needed to learn there are limits. Tiffany rubbed her forehead. After the divorce, I was scared. I didn't want to lose them again, so I let things slide. And by doing that, I said quietly, you almost lost this family too. Her eyes welled again, but this time there was understanding behind it. Maybe you're right, she whispered. We didn't say much after that. She went upstairs. I stayed at the table, staring out the window, watching the light shift across the yard. That evening, my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize until I opened the message. Hey, this is Jason. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said what I said. About the snow globe. About you. I read it twice. Then 3 times. The kid who told me I wasn't his dad was now the one reaching out first. I didn't reply. Not yet. I wanted it to mean something when I did. 2 days later, David stopped by. He pulled into the driveway. When he stepped out, he looked different. Tired, but calm. Got a minute? He asked. Sure, I said, meeting him halfway down the driveway. He leaned against his car. I didn't come to argue. I just wanted to say, they're starting to get it. Jason's been quiet. Real quiet. He even helped me clean the garage yesterday without being asked. That's a first, I said dryly. David chuckled. Yeah. He told me he screwed up bad. Said you were right about respect. Chloe cried for a while. She misses her mom and Maya. I crossed my arms. I didn't want it to come to this, but they needed a line drawn. He nodded. You did what I couldn't. I kept trying to be their buddy after the divorce. I think they needed someone to be their wall, not their friend. That stuck with me. You're a good dad, David, I said. They'll come around. He extended his hand. So are you, Mark. We shook. No hostility between us anymore. Just mutual understanding. 2 men trying to hold broken families together the only way we knew how. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table again, the same spot where all this started. On the counter, Andrew's broken snow globe base was still there. The glass long gone, but the little cabin inside still intact. I picked it up and turned it over in my hands. The next morning, Tiffany came down early. She saw the snow globe on the table and stopped. You fixed it, I nodded. It's not what it was, but it's standing. She looked at me, eyes full of exhaustion and guilt. Mark, she said quietly, I'm sorry for letting it get this bad. I was scared to lose my kids again after the divorce. I thought being soft would keep them close, but all it did was make them lose respect, for me and for you. I put a hand on hers. Then let's start over. Together this time. For the first time in months, she smiled. A real one. We didn't know what came next. But at least now we were finally on the same side. A week later, Tiffany sat across from me at the kitchen table, a notebook open between us. For once, we weren't arguing. We were planning. They want to come home, she said quietly. David called again. He said Jason's been asking every day. I nodded. If they come back, it's not going to be the same as before. This time, there are rules, and everyone follows them. No exceptions. She agreed. I know. What kind of rules are we talking about? I leaned forward. Rule number 1. Respect every adult in this house. That means no attitude, no talking back, and no ignoring what I say just because it doesn't come from you. Tiffany nodded slowly, writing it down. And the second? Jason gets a part-time job, I said. He's 16. He needs to learn what responsibility actually feels like. He wants a phone. Fine, he can pay for it. He wants independence. He can earn it. She hesitated for a second, but then nodded. That's fair. We finalized everything before calling David. When I explained the rules, he didn't argue. It's about time, he said. They'll agree. That Saturday, his car pulled into the driveway. I stood by the front door, hands in my pockets, trying to read Jason and Chloe's faces through the window. Both looked nervous. Jason's head was down. Chloe clutched her backpack like it was a shield. When they stepped inside, the air was thick with awkwardness. Andrew and Maya peeked from the hallway, curious but cautious. Tiffany spoke first. Before anything else, we need to talk about how things are going to be from now on. Jason nodded. Okay. I motioned for them to sit. Here's the deal, I said evenly. You don't have to call me Dad. You don't have to pretend we're best friends. But you will respect me. You'll respect this house, your mom, and each other. No more lies, no more disrespect. Understood? They both nodded. And Jason, I continued, you're getting a part-time job. I don't care if it's bagging groceries or sweeping floors, but you're going to learn what it means to earn something. He looked up at me, surprised but not angry. Okay, he said quietly. I can do that. Good, I said. Then we'll start over. The first few days were awkward, but calmer. Jason kept to himself mostly, but there was no attitude. Chloe helped Tiffany with dinner without being asked. Even Maya and Andrew seemed relieved that things didn't explode the second they walked in the room. A week later, Jason came home from his first shift at a local grocery store. He looked exhausted but proud. I bagged groceries for 4 hours, he said. Didn't realize how hard it was standing that long. Welcome to real life, I said, hiding a grin. Over the next few weeks, small changes started stacking up. Jason started asking if we needed anything before heading to work. Chloe offered to help Maya with homework. Andrew laughed more. Even Tiffany seemed lighter, like she'd been holding her breath for months and finally exhaled. One evening, I was fixing a shelf in the garage when Jason came in. He leaned against the doorframe, hands in his pockets. Hey, he said awkwardly. Hey, I said, not looking up. How's work? Not bad. Manager said I'm doing good. Good to hear. He was quiet for a moment, then said, I wanted to say thanks. For what? For not giving up on us. I was a jerk. I said things I didn't mean. You didn't have to take us back. I looked at him then. You earned your way back, I said simply. Just keep doing the right thing. He nodded. I will. That night, I walked through the house and realized how different it felt. There was laughter again, not tension. The kitchen wasn't silent during dinner. Everyone talked, even joked. The cracks were still there. You could feel them sometimes. But they were healing. Slowly. Honestly. Sometimes being the bad guy for a while is the only way to save a family. I didn't just win back respect. I earned a family. And this time, it feels real. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way. Story 6. When I proposed at a family cookout, my dad snatched the ring and said, "Save it for your brother. He's the one who deserves it." I walked out, cut them off, built my life. Then they came crawling back with apologies. Hey, Reddit. This isn't one of those, we had our differences, but deep down, they loved me stories. My parents made it clear from day one that my brother was star and I just exist. What happened next? Let's just say the ending isn't what my parents expected. My name's Lucas. I grew up in a house where there were 2 sons, but only 1 star. My brother Marcus was the star. He was the tall one, the athletic one, the one everybody looked at when we walked into a room. I was just the other kid. Even when we were little, it was obvious. My dad, Joseph, used to say things like, Marcus was born ready for the big stuff. My mom, Eleanor, would nod like she was agreeing with a news report. They didn't say much about me. If they did, it was usually, Lucas is quiet. In the baby album, my hospital bracelet photo is labeled Baby B, in a different handwriting. Marcus's page has a caption and a smiley face. Mine doesn't. In middle school, I entered this city science fair. I stayed up for weeks building a little motor from scratch. It wasn't much, but it ran. I got third place. The teacher said it was one of the better projects that year. Nobody from my family came to see it. They said they were busy with Marcus's soccer practice. He was a striker, by the way. Fast kid, always scoring goals. My dad said you can't miss a game because scouts could be watching. This was 7th grade. There were no scouts. Marcus got a whole pizza party after one game where he scored twice. I got a good job when I came home with my little science fair ribbon. They didn't even hang it up. It sat on my dresser until it got lost. When I brought it up once, Dad said, "Well, Marcus is always out there. People see him. He represents the family." He actually said, "represents the family," like we were a business. Meanwhile, I was just trying to make sure my shoes didn't squeak because they were too cheap. The only person who really noticed was my best friend George. We called him Georgie because he hated it. He had this old blue bike with one handlebar wrapped in duct tape. He didn't care what people thought. He saw right through my parents' nonsense too. He was the first one I told about Luna later on. I met Luna when I was 16, working weekends at this local grocery store. She was in charge of the bakery section. I was bagging groceries. She had this way of asking real questions. Not like, "How's it going?" but, "What do you actually want to do after school?" I didn't know what to say at first because nobody really asked me that before. My parents always talked about Marcus's future. Scholarships, sports, college visits. Me? They said, "You'll figure something out." Luna didn't act like that. She actually listened when I talked about maybe wanting to do something with computers, maybe learn to code or fix things. She said, "You'd be good at that." Simple, but it stuck with me. One year, we had this joint birthday party. Marcus and me, same day obviously. 16 candles each, big deal, right? They handed Marcus the keys to a used dirt bike. Everyone cheered. I got a $20 gift card to a bookstore. My dad said, "Equal value, different interests." I'm pretty sure a dirt bike costs more than $20, but whatever. Even Marcus looked awkward about it. He handed me one of his cupcakes like it was some kind of peace offering. By the time high school rolled around, I had this quiet plan in my head. Graduate, save up, leave. Every soccer trophy Marcus brought home made it clearer. Every time Dad said, "Marcus makes us proud," it got sharper. It wasn't even Marcus's fault. He was just living his life. But I couldn't picture staying in that house one day longer than I had to. The only thing that made it easier back then was Luna. She'd walk home with me after shifts, carrying a bag of leftover bread the bakery was going to toss out. We'd eat it on the curb, talk about music, talk about anything but family stuff. She once said, "You're way too calm about how they treat you." I told her, "What's the point of yelling? They wouldn't hear it anyway." But in my head, I was already counting the days. High school was when everything really started to split apart. Marcus became this local legend on the soccer field. Friday nights, the whole school would show up to watch him play. Parents yelling from the bleachers, girls in his jersey number, teachers talking about college potential. Me? I was usually in the computer lab after school or working extra shifts at the grocery store. Nobody cheered for that. One spring, I got invited to this regional STEM thing through school. Basically, they picked a few kids from each district to visit the university labs, see experiments, meet professors. I was pumped. I told my parents a month in advance. The night before, Mom said, "We can't drive you. Marcus has a game in Riverdale." That was 40 minutes in the opposite direction. I said I could probably get a ride with George. She said, "Do that then." They didn't ask how it went when I got back. Meanwhile, Marcus scored 2 goals that night, and Dad told the story 3 times over dinner the next day. George was the only one who actually cared about my thing. He asked about the labs, the machines, the robots they showed us. He joked that I'd be building laser eyes for cats one day. It was dumb, but it felt good having someone in my corner. Luna asked too, later. We were closing up the grocery store when she said, "So, did the professor people like you?" I told her one of them said I should apply for the summer coding program. "You gonna do it?" she asked. "Maybe," I said. Truth was, I didn't even know how I'd pay for the bus to get there. One night after another, one of Marcus's games, we were all in the kitchen. Marcus was sweaty, still in his jersey, holding this shiny MVP medal. Dad kept talking like recruiters had him on speed dial, like Marcus was about to sign a pro contract at 17. I mentioned the summer coding program just to see if anyone cared. Mom said, "That's nice," without looking up from the dishes. Dad said, "How much does it cost?" I told him the fee. He whistled like I'd said $10,000. It wasn't even that much. "Maybe next year," he said. Right now, we have tournament fees coming up for Marcus's. Marcus shifted uncomfortably, like he wanted to say something, but he didn't. Luna heard about the whole thing from me later, and started this little jar at her place. She threw in tips from the bakery. I added my grocery store money. George tossed in coins from fixing bikes around the neighborhood. By the deadline, we actually had enough. I signed up. My parents never asked how I got in. Senior year rolled around and things just kept stacking up. College mail started coming in. Marcus got letters from state universities about playing soccer. He signed with state on a soccer scholarship for the fall. I got a full tuition scholarship for computer science because of a project I did at the summer program. When I told Mom, she smiled politely and said, "That's good, Lucas." Then immediately asked Marcus if he needed new cleats for the fall season. Marcus tried talking to me a couple times that spring. Not about the parents, just random stuff. College plans, Luna, whatever. We weren't close, but he wasn't cruel either. It was like we lived parallel lives in the same house. One night he said, "You know Dad brags about you sometimes at work, right?" About the computer stuff? I shrugged. Never heard it here. He didn't argue. He just nodded like he already knew. By the time graduation came, I had an envelope with some saved up cash, a bus schedule, and a friend with a spare couch in another city. The plan was set. We sort of graduation day was supposed to be a big deal. For once, I thought maybe things would feel even. Both their sons, same ceremony, same day, same stage. But deep down, I already knew how it would go. The morning started with Marcus getting ready in the living room, fixing his tie in the mirror while Mom adjusted his collar like he was about to meet the president. Dad kept saying, "Big day for the family," over and over. I was in the hallway waiting my turn, holding my gown on a plastic hanger. Nobody noticed. We got there late because Dad wanted to swing by and grab donuts for the road, but ended up chatting with the cashier about Marcus's last soccer season. By the time we parked, the ceremony had already started. We had to walk past rows of seated families while everyone turned to look. I lined up with the other grads, Luna and George waving from the crowd. My parents sat in the back, Dad craning his neck only when Marcus's name was close. They'd shown up late, the donut stop, and were still shuffling to the back when my name got called. If they clapped, I didn't see it. They called me up for my computer science scholarship. I walked across the stage, shook hands, smiled for the picture. The applause was polite, quick. 5 minutes later, Marcus walked up for his sports award, and the place went wild. People stood. The announcer made a joke about future pro athlete right here. Cameras flashed. My parents were on their feet like they were at a concert. After the ceremony, everyone gathered outside for photos. I tried to get one with both my parents, but they were too busy with Marcus and some local reporter who wanted a quote for the school newsletter. I ended up in one group shot where I'm half hidden behind Marcus's shoulder. We went to dinner after. Big family table, cousins, neighbors. Even Marcus's coach showed up. It was noisy, everyone laughing, telling stories. I sat at the end next to George. When the food came out, Dad stood up with this big grin. He held up a small box and said, "For Marcus, our pride and joy, here's something for your future." He handed over a set of car keys. Everyone clapped as Marcus held them up. "First real car, son," Dad said, clapping him on the back. "You'll need it for college, for your games, for life." Then Dad turned to me like he just remembered I existed. He slid a smaller box down the table. "And for Lucas, something useful too." I opened it. A watch. Cheap leather band, brand name I'd never heard of. He said, "Now you won't be late to your classes," like it was a joke. People chuckled politely. Luna squeezed my hand under the table. George muttered something about Dad needing glasses. I put the watch back in the box. "Thanks," I said, because what else was I supposed to say? George leaned over and whispered, "That thing probably loses time." I almost laughed but didn't. Marcus looked uncomfortable, turning the car keys in his hand like he didn't want them anymore. He said, "Maybe we should have split the cost or something." Dad waved him off. "Don't be silly. You'll need it more. Lucas doesn't even drive." It was true, but still. After dinner, people gathered in the parking lot talking about Marcus's future. Some uncle was saying he'd make the draft one day. Mom nodded like it was already decided. Nobody asked about my college plans. Not once. Luna finally spoke up. "Lucas got a scholarship too, you know. A full one for computer science." Mom smiled vaguely. "Oh, that's nice." Then turned back to the soccer talk. That was the moment I knew for sure. I was done. We drove home, everyone tired from the day. Marcus tried talking to me about the car, about maybe sharing it sometimes. I said, "It's yours. Don't worry about it." I went to my room, grabbed the envelope with my saved up cash, and started packing a duffel bag. Luna had already talked to her cousin in the city about me crashing on his couch for a while. Job leads, bus routes, everything lined up. I didn't slam doors or make speeches. I just packed. Around midnight, Dad knocked. "What are you doing?" "Leaving tomorrow," I said. He frowned. "You don't have to rush out. We can help you get set up." I zipped the bag. "I've got it covered." He stood there like he wanted to say something else but didn't. Eventually, he walked away. I left at sunrise while everyone slept. Slipped the watch back on the kitchen counter. Took the bus to the city with George helping carry my stuff. Luna met us there with coffee and a smile that felt like a fresh start. I didn't text my parents when I got to the new place. I didn't post about it online. I just unpacked my things, sat on the lumpy couch, and let the silence settle in. It felt like the first real choice I'd made for myself. That fall, I started at the state university on the full tuition scholarship, commuting from our apartment and taking a lot of classes online so I could keep working. I stayed away for months after moving out. No calls, no visits, nothing. Luna and I built our own little life in the city. Cheap apartment, secondhand furniture, long hours at work, but it felt like ours. Then came the message from Mom. "Family cookout next Saturday. Everyone's coming. Marcus will be there too." I ignored it at first. Then Marcus texted me. "Just come, man. It's been a while." He didn't beg, just said he wanted me there. Said maybe things would be different. I wasn't convinced, but Luna thought maybe it was worth showing up. So we went. The backyard was full when we arrived. Cousins, neighbors, even some of Marcus's old teammates. Big table piled with food, music playing, kids running around. Dad was by the grill, Mom directing traffic like she owned the place. We said hello to a few people, found a spot near the edge. Marcus came over, grinning. "Glad you made it," he said. He didn't look fake about it either. I told him thanks. He leaned closer. "You gonna do it today?" "Yeah," I said. My hand went to my pocket where the ring was. Luna didn't know exactly when I planned to propose, just that it would be today. I figured doing it here might be a step toward making peace. Maybe show my parents I was serious about my own life. An hour in, people started settling with plates of food. Kids sat on the grass, adults in lawn chairs. I got up, cleared my throat. "Hey everyone," I said. "Can I get your attention for a minute?" People turned. Luna looked confused, then realized what was happening. I started talking about how much she meant to me, how she stuck with me through everything. My voice shook a little, but I kept going. I pulled the ring from my pocket and got down on one knee. That's when Dad walked over. He didn't smile. He didn't clap. He just reached down, took the ring right out of my hand, held it up like it was his. "Let's not waste this," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Save it for Marcus. He'll be married first, like he should be." The whole yard went silent. Luna froze. My ears rang. Marcus stood up so fast his chair fell over. "What the hell, Dad?" Dad waved him off. "I'm just saying, you're the one with a real future. Career, stability. You should be the first to start a family, not your brother here still figuring things out." I stood up. "Give me the ring." Mom came over, arms crossed. "Your father's right, Lucas. It's too soon for you. You barely have anything saved. Marriage takes money, planning. Marcus is settled. It makes sense for him to go first." Marcus moved between us. "You two need to stop. He loves her. That's enough reason." Dad scoffed. "Love doesn't pay bills." Marcus knows that. He thinks ahead. That's why we support him the way we do. I felt my hands shake. "You mean the way you never supported me?" Mom snapped back instantly. "Oh, here we go again. Always playing the victim. We gave you what we could." Marcus turned on her. "No, you didn't. Don't even try that. I saw it my whole life. Him getting scraps while I got everything." Dad's face reddened. "You earned what you got." He didn't. I laughed, but it wasn't funny. "Yeah, I forgot the part where being born less athletic means I deserved nothing." Mom raised her voice. "You think life's been unfair to you? We kept a roof over your head, food on the table. Plenty of parents do less." "Plenty of parents don't humiliate their kid in front of 50 people, Marcus shot back. "Give him the damn ring." Dad still held it like it was his to give. "He's not ready." Luna finally spoke. Her voice was calm but sharp. "With all due respect, this isn't your decision. If Lucas isn't ready, that's for him to figure out. Not you." Some relatives shifted uncomfortably. A few walked toward the house like they didn't want to watch. I stepped closer. "Last time. Give me the ring." Dad stared at me for a long second, then finally dropped it in my hand. "Fine," he said. "Throw your life away if you want." I put it back in my pocket. My hands were steady now. "I'll throw away your opinion before I throw away my life." Marcus muttered, "Good," under his breath. Mom shook her head like she couldn't believe we were all ungrateful. One day you'll realize we were right, she said. I looked at Marcus. Did you ever ask to be first? For any of this? He shook his head. Never. I just wanted to play soccer. I didn't ask for the car, the money, the attention. I told them more than once to split things fair. They didn't listen. Dad pointed at him. You deserved it, Marcus. Don't act like you didn't. Marcus looked tired suddenly. Maybe I did. But so did he. Nobody said anything after that. The music had stopped. Kids were staring. Luna touched my arm gently, like asking if I still wanted to do this. I shook my head. Not today. We left without eating. Marcus followed us to the driveway. I'm sorry, he said. They're impossible sometimes. I told him it wasn't his fault, but in my head, I knew things had just broken in a way they wouldn't fix anytime soon. After the cookout disaster, I blocked my parents on everything. Calls, texts, social media, gone. Luna didn't argue. She just nodded like she'd been waiting for me to finally cut the cord. Marcus tried reaching out a couple of times, apologizing for them, saying he didn't agree with any of it. I believed him. He was the only one in that house who ever seemed to notice the way things really were. But I didn't go back. I poured everything into work and school. I was still at the grocery store part-time, but I started doing computer repair gigs for cash. George spread the word around, and soon I had enough clients to quit the store job. Luna worked mornings at the bakery and evenings helping a catering company. We barely saw each other some days, but when we did, it felt like progress. Bills got paid on time. We even saved a little each month. I enrolled at the state university on the full tuition scholarship, stacking evening and online CS classes while working. Nothing fancy at first, just intro courses, but it felt like I was finally heading somewhere. Every time I fixed a laptop or wrote a small script that actually worked, it felt like I was peeling away another layer of my parents' voices, telling me I wasn't good enough. We had this tiny apartment over a laundromat. The walls were thin, and the plumbing rattled when someone upstairs showered, but it was ours. Luna found a couch on some yard sale app for $20. George helped carry it up the stairs, grumbling the whole way, but refusing to let me lift the heavy side. You're the brains, he said, wiping sweat off his forehead. I'm the brawn. The thing sagged in the middle, but it was better than sitting on the floor. One night after a long day, Luna came home with a bag of day-old bread from the bakery like she always did. We sat on the couch, eating sandwiches and talking about maybe doing a small wedding. Nothing big, just her family, George, a couple of close friends. Your parents won't like that, she said carefully. I laughed. They're not invited. She didn't push back. She knew why. We booked the courthouse date 2 weeks later. I texted Marcus directly the next day. Hey, I wrote, small wedding coming up. Just us, Luna's family, George. No drama. You're welcome if you want. He called right away. You sure about inviting me? If Mom and Dad find out. They won't, I said. It's your choice, man. I just want you there, if you can make it. Marcus paused for a second. I'll try. Seriously. I want to be there. On the morning of the wedding, he called again. Lucas, I'm stuck out of town for work. Won't make it back in time. I'm sorry, man. It's fine, I said. No pressure. I'm proud of you, you know, he said. Ignore whatever they think. Do your thing. After his first season, he left state and took a field rep job with a sporting goods company. The role kept him on the road most weeks, bouncing between schools and tournaments. So it ended up just being Luna's family, George, and a couple of friends. Courthouse vows, simple rings, photos on someone's phone. George was my witness. Her mom cried happy tears. My side of the aisle was empty, and honestly, it didn't bother me at all. When we got back to her parents' place for dinner, my phone buzzed. Marcus. Congrats, man. I wish I was there. You deserve this. I believed him. A week after the wedding, Marcus called me. They know, he said. I didn't tell them. Someone in the family must have. Mom's been pacing all morning. Dad's on a warpath. I wasn't surprised. I figured they'd find out eventually. I didn't expect the knock on our apartment door that night, though. It was them. Dad and Mom standing in the hallway like they owned the place. Luna froze beside me. Married? Dad started before he even stepped inside. You went and got married behind our backs? Yeah, I said. We did. Mom's voice was sharp. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? Sneaking off like criminals? I laughed once. Everything you've done for me? Like the cookout? Like graduation? Dad cut in, louder now. You embarrassed this family. Marriage isn't some backyard game, Lucas. You think you can just run off with the first girl who says yes? Luna spoke up then. Actually, it's our life, not yours. Mom ignored her completely. Marcus would have done this right. Big ceremony, proper announcements, family involved. Not this secret little stunt. Marcus, who'd come with them, finally snapped. Would you stop comparing everything to me? He doesn't owe you a show. None of this is about you. Dad turned on him. Don't start. You know we expected better from both of you. Marcus stepped forward. No, you expected control. That's all this is. He didn't do it your way, so now you're throwing a fit. Mom shook her head like he was speaking another language. Families are supposed to be involved in these decisions. I said, families are supposed to support their kids. You never did that for me. Not once. Dad pointed at me. We kept food on the table. That's the bare minimum, Marcus shot back. You want a trophy for feeding him? The room went dead quiet after that. Mom's eyes narrowed. One day you'll both regret this. Cutting us out like we're strangers. I said, maybe, but it won't be today. They left without another word, the door slamming behind them. Marcus stayed behind, looking tired. I'm sorry, man. They just don't get it. I told him it wasn't on him to apologize. He wasn't the problem. The next few months blurred into work, classes, and fixing up the apartment. I bought a second-hand desk for $50 and set up a little workspace in the corner. Started taking on more complex repair jobs. Some nights I stayed up late watching tutorials, Luna asleep on the couch beside me. Marcus visited once, bringing takeout. He looked around the apartment like he was seeing my life for the first time. Mom says you're ignoring them, he said carefully. I shrugged. They earned it. He nodded. Yeah, they did. Summer came, and with it, bigger repair jobs. A small business hired me to fix their office computers. Paid well, too. Enough that Luna and I started looking at bigger apartments, someplace not over a laundromat. One evening, we sat on the couch eating cheap takeout when George came by with a used bookshelf he found online. We set it up in the corner, and Luna filled it with second-hand books and a couple of framed photos from the wedding. It was the first time our place actually felt like a home. Then, out of nowhere, Marcus called one night. His voice was tight. Dad had a heart attack, he said. He's in the hospital. For a second, I didn't say anything. Marcus went on. He's okay. They say it wasn't massive, but they want to see you. Luna looked at me from across the room, waiting. I told Marcus I'd think about it and hung up. I didn't owe them anything, but part of me wanted to hear whatever excuse they had left. The next afternoon, I walked into the hospital room. Dad was sitting up in bed, pale but awake. Mom was in the chair beside him, arms crossed, looking like she was holding a grudge against the air itself. Marcus stood near the window. He gave me a quick nod. Dad cleared his throat. You came. I'm not here for small talk, I said. Say what you need to say. Mom glared at me, but Marcus spoke first. Maybe just let him talk, okay? Dad looked down at his hands. We only ever wanted one child, he said finally. We found out we were having twins, and it wasn't the plan. I didn't move. So, he said slowly. We decided early on we'd keep one. The stronger one. The one we thought had the best shot. I felt my jaw tighten. You mean Marcus? He nodded like it was a fact, not an apology. You were smaller. Sick a lot as a baby. We even had a family lined up to adopt you. Marcus turned from the window. You never told me that. Dad rubbed his face. They backed out. Said they couldn't split twins. After that, no one else wanted to take just one baby. So we kept you both. And treated us like we weren't equal, I said. He didn't argue. We thought focusing on Marcus made sense. He was healthy, athletic. People liked him. We figured giving him more would pay off for the family. Mom finally spoke. We gave you a home. We didn't have to do more than that. Marcus snapped then. Do you even hear yourselves? You treated him like a spare part. Dad looked at him tiredly. We thought changing things later would hurt you. You were used to the attention. He wasn't. We didn't want to disrupt what worked. I laughed once, sharp and ugly. Worked for who? Certainly not for me. Dad winced but didn't back down. After the heart attack, I booked us with a family therapist. It was my idea. We see it now. The favoritism. The damage. We were wrong. I stared at him. You think admitting this erases it? No, he said. But I don't want to leave things like this. I don't want to go without you knowing the truth. Mom still hadn't softened. We did what we thought was best. You don't have to like it. Marcus turned on her. Best for who, Mom? Because it sure wasn't best for him. Or me, honestly. You think I liked being the golden child? You made me feel like if I ever screwed up, I'd lose everything too. That shut her up for the first time all day. I looked at Marcus. Did you know any of this? He shook his head. I knew they were unfair. I didn't know they tried to give you away. Dad leaned back against the pillows like the confession had taken everything out of him. I can't undo it. I want a chance to make things right now. I stood there for a long moment. You don't get to decide that. I do. He nodded slowly. I understand. I turned to leave, but Marcus stopped me at the door. You okay? No, I said. But I'm done letting them control the story. We walked out together, leaving our parents in that room with their choices. The few months passed after the hospital visit. I kept my distance. They had their confession, and I had my answer. That didn't erase anything. Life moved on. Luna and I found a slightly bigger apartment closer to the bus lines. After a couple of semesters, I got a steady IT job through one of the small businesses I'd done freelance work for. It paid enough to cover bills, savings, and even a decent used car. Then Marcus called one evening. I'm getting engaged, he said. I told him congratulations, and I meant it. He hesitated before adding, They want you there. Mom and Dad, they said they'll behave. I laughed quietly. That'll be the day, he sighed. Look, I get it. I really do. But I want you there because you're my brother, not because of them. So Luna and I went. The engagement party was huge. Catered food, music, people dressed like it was a wedding already. Dad and Mom were there, but they kept their distance at first. They'd been in counseling since the hospital, and for once it actually showed. Marcus spotted us, grinning. You made it, he said, hugging me like he hadn't done since we were kids. Luna handed his fiancée a small gift we'd picked out together. They both looked genuinely happy. Halfway through the night, Dad finally came over. He looked older than I remembered. Lucas, he said carefully. Thanks for coming. I nodded. I'm here for Marcus. He didn't argue, didn't try to make it about him. That was new. Mom came next. We'd like to meet Luna properly sometime, she said. Her voice wasn't warm, but it wasn't icy either. Luna gave a polite smile. Maybe. It was the kind of answer that said you're not owed this. Later, Marcus pulled me aside. The music was loud, people laughing in the background. I need to say something, he said. I know you went through hell with them. I saw it. I didn't stop it enough. I was the favorite, and I let it slide because it was easier for me. You were a kid, I said. It wasn't your job to fix it. Still, he said, shaking his head, you deserved better. Way better. I told him the truth. I don't want an apology from you. I just want us to be brothers, without all the garbage they built between us. He nodded slowly. I want that too. It was the first real conversation we'd had as equals. Toward the end of the night, Dad finally approached me. I know we can't change the past, he said, voice low, but we'd like to be part of your life now. Both of you, if you'll let us. I looked him dead in the eye. Here's how this goes. No insults, no comparisons. You treat me, Luna, and any kids we might have with respect. Every time. No slip-ups, no excuses. You show up right, or you don't show up at all. He nodded slowly. And understand this, I added. My voice stayed steady, but there was no give in it. This isn't me asking for anything. I built my life without you. I don't need a redo. You want to be in it, you follow my rules. You earn your place. Otherwise, stay out. He didn't argue. Couldn't. For once, they just listened. On the drive home, Luna asked how I felt. Lighter, I said, and I meant it. We got back to our apartment and unpacked the leftovers Marcus sent with us. I hung up the one decent photo someone took of us at the wedding. Me, Luna, Marcus, his fiancée, all smiling like normal people. The next weekend, I built a bookshelf for the second bedroom we were turning into an office. Hung my old scholarship certificate above it. Straight this time, not crooked like it used to be at my parents' place. Not because I needed to prove anything anymore, but because it was mine, and this was my life now. Over the next year, my parents called a few times. Never demanding, never insulting. Sometimes just to ask how work was going, or to wish Luna happy birthday. I didn't trust it right away, but I noticed they actually listened now. They sent Christmas cards for the first time ever, wrote both our names on them. It didn't fix things. Some stuff doesn't get fixed, but it made life quieter, cleaner. Marcus got married that spring. Big wedding, all the family there, even us. No speeches comparing us. No weird tension. Just a normal day where nobody was fighting for once. At the reception, he raised his glass and said, "To my brother Lucas, for showing me what standing your ground looks like." People clapped. I didn't make a speech back. I just clinked my glass with Luna's and enjoyed the moment. Back home that night, Luna asked if I thought things were better now. Better, I said. Not perfect, but better. I didn't need more than that. Because the truth was, I'd already built my own life. One they couldn't control, couldn't take credit for, couldn't ruin. And that was enough. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.